He worked at a convenience store. His days were always the same. In this world, great adventurers become rich by conquering towers. But he was unlucky, a coward who never awakened any powers. One day, Joo-hyuk received a guide for cowards to conquer the tower. After that, he awakened a crazy ability, random summoning. Walking through an alley, he ignores men complaining about something on their shoes. He keeps walking, passing through a dirty and very noisy neighborhood. Arriving at his apartment, he stops in front of the door before finally going in. Bong Joo-hyuk, unemployed, realizes he'll be having ramen for dinner again tonight. Because of his debts, he needs to save money and live a very simple life. Sitting down to eat, he starts his meal without expecting a very bright future. Suddenly, a strange screen appears before him, announcing he has awakened. He freezes, completely shocked, with food still in his mouth. Dropping everything on the floor, he screams, not understanding what the hell is happening. After the shock, he wonders if he's really the one who awakened. This blessing of awakening is a chance to turn his life around, something very rare. But to enjoy this luck, you need to stay alive, because the tower is dangerous. Inside, monsters can end anyone's life at any moment. Freezing or burning to death are some of the dangers everyone faces. On top of all that, there's also the chance of dying from poison. Thinking about the dangers, he tells himself he shouldn't have quit his part-time jobs. Pretending to be on the phone, he avoids any kind of confrontation with other people. Always trying to avoid danger, he chooses not to walk under that construction site. Back at his table, he wonders if it was all just a hallucination. So, to be sure, he shouts for the status window to appear. Then, a screen appears with his information, showing that his class is Summoner. Touching the screen, he realizes it's not a dream and confirms his ability. The awakened receive an ability, which can be of various types and forms. Spirits, familiars, and golems are some examples of more advanced summons. This ability allows the summoner to use specific types of beings in battle. Curious about his power, he decides he needs to test his new ability right now. Extending his hand forward, he tries to use the summoning ability. He then looks at his hand and tries to use the random summon. But to his surprise, nothing happens, and he doesn't understand why. After thinking for a bit, he remembers that the skill doesn't work outside the tower. Still confused, he wonders how his skill worked and why it summoned a human. To understand better, he opens the status window, which explains about summoning humans. Seeing the different ranks, he compares the summon to a gacha game character. Then a new window appears, informing him about the 3 principles of the summoned being. Reading the rules, he discovers he will have absolute obedience and total protection. As the man drinks the rest of the broth, he tries to find out who was summoned. Opening the catalog, he sees the details of a super rare assassin named John Cossack. He discovers the assassin is the guild's greatest asset and biggest headache. The screen shows that his mission success rate is 99%. Being so skilled, he even managed to complete a very difficult assassination mission. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain, receiving a large amount of information all at once. With his eyes glowing, he doesn't seem to understand what's happening to his body. Then, his body is pulled down, as if falling into an abyss. Falling quickly, he sees that the summoned assassin was already waiting for him below. With a swift move, the assassin catches him in midair, saving his life. Seeing all this, he is left confused about what is happening around him. In the blink of an eye, the scene changes, and he sees the assassin in a battle. He then realizes he's seeing the assassin's past, showing his fights. After finishing everyone off, the assassin picks up a red ribbon that was there. He ties the ribbon on a target's head, treating it like a gift. Smiling, he holds the head as if he's proud of what he just did. The scene changes to a mansion, showing that his end came from a single failure. Inside the house, his next target was sleeping peacefully in bed. Moving stealthily, he prepares to land a fatal blow on his target. But the target was the Empire's strongest swordsman, a very powerful opponent. Being defeated, that was the last memory the assassin had before he died. Back in the present, the assassin faces him and asks what he's thinking about. Startled, he falls backward as the man apologizes for his action. Even though he's scared, he remembers that the summoned being must obey his orders. Taking a deep breath, he tries to calm down to deal with the current situation. Giving a few orders, he asks the assassin to wash the pot and clean the table. Impressed by the scene, he notices the man is fast and doesn't complain at all. Surprised, he realizes the summoned being really does everything he commands. While cleaning, the assassin says he will obey any order from his master. Deciding to test the limits, he asks the man to simply bark for him. The assassin then closes his eyes, preparing to fulfill the unusual request. At that moment, he thinks that maybe he went a little too far with his order. Worried about his pride, he sees the man barking happily like a dog. Giving a thumbs up, he confirms that his obedience is absolute. Suddenly, very loud knocks on the door startle them both. Shouting from outside, the person asks if Bong Joo-hyuk is home. He quickly quickly tells Mr. Kosak to get up from the floor so they can deal with this. Remembering the past, he borrowed 10 million from a dangerous loan shark. This debt was to pay for his father's surgery and his brother's college tuition. Even knowing it was a terrible idea, he would make the same choice again. As they knock on the door, he calls for Mr. Kosak, clearly worried about the situation. The assassin then offers to bring him the man's head, but he refuses the offer. Pushing him into the bathroom, he tells him to hide and stay quiet in there. As he opens the door, a hand grabs his neck forcefully from behind. Saying he looks well, the loan shark demands the overdue payment. Then he threateningly suggests that selling an organ would solve all his problems. As they leave, one of them suggests using the younger brother to settle the debt. Hearing that, his expression turns serious and visibly angry, but the loan shark notices his glare and asks if he wants to start a fight. Forcing a smile, he says, of course not, that he would never dare to do such a thing. After the threat, the man leaves, and he just sighs looking at the door. Then Mr. Kosak comes out, saying he was just following the orders he received. Sitting on the floor, he thinks that a coward like him could never climb the tower. Unsure of what to do, he asks what the assassin wants and offers to unsummon him, but the man raises his hand and asks if he can watch some TV. Even without understanding, he allows the man to watch some television. While the assassin watches TV, he ends up falling asleep right there on the sofa. Watching his master sleep, the summoned man gives a slight smirk. Lying comfortably, he seems to have a much more peaceful night's sleep. Focused on the show, the man enjoys that moment of peace and quiet. With his eyes fixed on the screen, he continues to watch everything with great attention. The next day, he wakes up and turns off the alarm clock ringing at 8 in the morning. While checking the news, he notices Mr. Kosak is no longer in the apartment. A system window appears, confirming that the summons time has expired. Deciding to ignore everything, he gets ready for work when he hears the news. Heading to the kitchen, the TV reports an incident at the Smile Cash Loan Shark Agency. Upon hearing the company's name, he immediately stops what he's doing. Startled by the news, he hears that the 3 victims have been found. In shock, he discovers that their heads were decorated with red ribbons. Remembering the assassin's past, he realizes it might have been Kosak. The image of the man smiling and saluting flashes back in his memory. Desperate, he yells that he didn't summon a companion, but a psychopath. Showing the bizarre scene, the news online reports on the Smile Cash murder case. On the floor, the loan shark's bloody hand reveals the rings he always wore. Displayed together, the 3 men's heads are decorated with the same red ribbons. Completely terrified, he repeats to himself that he's so screwed because of all this. Working at the store, he's startled when a strange customer approaches the register. Then the customer asks him to ring up the loan shark's head like a normal item. Looking at the scene, he's completely paralyzed, unable to react to what he's seeing. Behind the man, the other heads are displayed as if they were gifts from the store. Screaming in terror, he falls backward, knocking everything off the counter. But it was all a nightmare, and the customer asks if he's feeling all right. After the shock, he apologizes and says he'll ring up her purchase. Once outside, he decides he can't work and is going to take the day off. As he walks through the snow, he starts thinking about the deaths of those loan sharks. Alone in the crowd, he wonders if all of this happened because of him. Night falls on the city, blanketing the rooftops with a light layer of snow. Looking through the catalog, he realizes the man was a really crazy assassin. Even knowing he won't get hurt, he still feels a little scared of the assassin. Reaching out his hand, he decides to use the designated summon to call the man back, but a new screen appears in front of him, catching him completely by surprise. The system then asks him to leave a satisfaction review for John Kosak. Looking at the 5 stars, he understands he needs to rate the summoned assassin's work. Furious, he decides to give just 1 star for getting him into trouble, but rethinking his decision, he doubts if he should really give that rating. Thinking it would be mean, he changes his mind and taps the 3rd star. Immediately after, the screen confirms his rating was 3 stars. Remembering his mother, he knows how discouraging a low rating can be. Then the assassin appears again, introducing himself with a smile and a salute. Thanking him for the 3 stars, he promises to try even harder in the future. Mustering his courage, he asks if Mr. Kosak was the one who killed the loan sharks yesterday. Confirming his suspicion, the man says he took care of them last night. Facing the assassin, he realizes he's in the presence of a real killer. Trying to calm down, he reminds himself that the man won't hurt him no matter what. He then explains that he marked the men when they broke into his apartment. Not understanding the situation, he asks why the assassin had to go so far. Saying they were a threat, the man explains it's better to eliminate the danger beforehand. The answer lies in the 3rd clause of the 3 principles shown earlier. Basically, obedience can be ignored if the summoner is in danger. This way, he would never obey an order that would put his master at risk. But he argues there was no threat, that it was just Kosak's own judgment. At this, he yells that the justification is the complete rambling of a psychopath. Apologizing, he hears the assassin say it's no problem, as he's used to it. Even understanding the logic, he realizes the situation could be very dangerous. He imagines that if he bumps into someone, the person will probably threaten him, even if the threat is empty, with no real intention of hurting anyone. Depending on Kosak's interpretation, the result could be another head as a gift. Terrified by the thought, he starts muttering about the ribbons on the gifts. Suddenly, the assassin kneels and takes the blame for what happened. He then explains that killing people could get him into big trouble. Saluting, the man promises he will use his best judgment in these situations. Seeing that he's being evasive, he just tells the assassin he can go now. But before leaving, the man asks if he has ever considered climbing the tower. The question about the tower catches the protagonist completely off guard. Even knowing it's a huge opportunity, he clenches his fist tightly. He knows the tower is dangerous and that he could die in there. Curious, he asks if there were other summoners who summoned him before. The assassin replies yes, and that they were very strong and brave. Feeling ashamed, he admits he doesn't have the courage to risk his own life. Looking away, he calls himself a pathetic and worthless coward, but the assassin surprises him, saying he's the greatest summoner of them all. Grabbing his shoulders, he says that the greatest virtue is safety first. The assassin explains that a brave summoner is poison, because if he dies, it's all over. Smiling confidently, he guarantees he will take care of all the dirty work. Completely stunned, he listens to the request to just live a long and peaceful life. Waking up tired, he reveals he didn't sleep well because he was worried about the tower. With his eyes closed, he thinks he should just be grateful the debt is gone and move on. Then, stretching, he decides to get a normal job and work hard to improve his life. But suddenly, he feels his phone vibrate. Calling his father, he finds out he needs to be transferred to a larger hospital. Receiving more bad news, he's shocked to learn his mother was fired. Hanging up the phone, he promises to visit them soon. Standing on the rooftop, he remains silent for a while, just staring at his phone. Changing his mind, he gears up with safety equipment and a baseball bat. Determined to go in, he plans to check out the first floor and leave if it's dangerous. Before summoning, he realizes he doesn't need to call that psychopathic assassin again. Feeling lucky, he considers summoning someone new, maybe a super rare legendary one. Trying the random summon, a screen notifies him that the ability is not available. The system informs him there's a cooldown of almost a month before he can try again. In the end, he summons Kosak, who thanks him for the 5 stars and introduces himself. Welcoming him, he feels awkward, hoping the man doesn't know the truth. He then tells him he's decided to enter the tower, but just to take a look. The assassin tells him to throw away the equipment, saying he'll be his guide. With a smile, he assures him he'll take care of everything to keep his master safe. At that, a system window asks if he really wishes to enter the Black Tower. Next, another screen informs him that the only accessible floor right now is the first one. Gesturing, the assassin points for him to confirm entry into the tower. The screen then confirms they are entering the first floor of the Korean tower. Without warning, the assassin grabs him and pulls him inside, making him scream. Pulled into the tower, he travels through a tunnel of digital data. With a look of shock, he feels the full impact of the forced entry. As he screams, the assassin holds him tight, continuing their high-speed fall. Finally arriving, they find themselves inside the tower, in front of a protective barrier. Looking around, he realizes the first floor is a complete desert. Feeling extremely nauseous, he tries to hold back the urge to vomit, but unable to hold it in, he throws up on the floor, and the assassin asks if he's okay. Calling for them to go beyond the safe zone, the assassin tells him to follow. A screen then informs him that his physical abilities have been enhanced to his level. Right after, another one notifies him that his combat skills are now available for use. Looking at his own hand, he feels his body is stronger, like a player's. The floor's mission appears, requiring him to eliminate 5 larvae within 2 hours. Pointing to the desert, the assassin shows him where the mission's creatures are. According to his research, these creatures are very difficult to kill because of their skin. Swallowing hard, he watches the monsters moving slowly across the desert. Clenching his fist, he realizes he is now a player just like the others. Determined to fight, he walks toward the creature to take down the first one. Getting closer, he stops in front of the monster and faces his first challenge. Remembering the weapon, he thinks about asking to borrow one from the assassin, Kosak. At that moment, the creature turns and rears its body body toward him. Standing right in front of him, the monster reveals something strange inside itself. Completely paralyzed, he stands silently, unable to react. Desperate, he asks Mr. Cossack to help him get out of there. Giving a thumbs up, the assassin says that was a wise decision. Then he dashes at high speed toward the monster to begin the attack. With a single blow, the assassin destroys the creature, which explodes into pieces. Telling him to step back, the man attacks the other creatures at the same time. Running through the desert, he continues his assault against all the remaining monsters. Unleashing several strikes, he hits all the targets with a single ranged attack. After his technique, he watches as all the creatures are finally defeated. Standing still, the assassin watches the monsters being completely destroyed by his attacks. Impressed, he stands with his mouth open, seeing the strength of his summoned being. He then realizes the man managed to kill all the monsters in an instant. Then the rewards appear, informing him that he has leveled up and obtained items. Finding it all too easy, he celebrates, thinking he'll get rich this way. Changing scenes, a woman in an office watches a screen with curiosity. Elsewhere, another woman stops her training to look at the screen. In a club, a man also observes the same screen that has appeared for everyone. At that moment, all players in Korea receive the same system announcement. They are teleported back home, with the option to go to the second floor. Looking at his phone, he's surprised to see that it all took only 5 minutes. Smiling, the assassin boasts that it was a job well done. Even though he feels useless, the man says this is the role of a summoner. On the table, the items he earned as rewards finally materialize. Picking up the stone, he observes it carefully, seeing a mana stone for the first time. Mana stones have become a very important resource in modern industry. Despite the price drop, 100 grams of the stone are still worth 50,000 won. But what catches his attention is the platinum badge, an unknown item. Celebrating the profit, he decides it's time to watch some more dramas. So he calls Cossack to eat, ordering a full feast for the two of them. Smelling the food, the assassin seems to catch a whiff of something spicy in the air. Even though he ordered normal food, he says he smells something spicy. Smiling, the man gives his thanks and starts to eat, praising his master's kindness. Eating a piece, he asks why Cossack speaks in such a strange way. With a smirk, he compares his speech to that of an ex-boyfriend. Finding the situation funny, the two men start laughing together at the table. Eating with gusto, the assassin shows he's not dangerous at all, just different. Setting his equipment aside, he seems to have made a decision about the tower. With a determined look, he smiles and thinks he can handle the challenge. The next morning, the sun rises over the roof of his simple apartment. Looking at his new routine, he decides to work day and night to support himself. But he changes his plan, deciding to climb the tower with Cossack to make a living. After being summoned, the assassin excitedly celebrates the score he received from his master. Curious, he asks the man if the satisfaction rating is that important. The assassin explains that a better score brings more benefits and a higher chance of being summoned. Arriving on the second floor, the two prepare for the new challenge mission. This time, the mission is to eliminate 10 agile larvae, which move very fast. Observing the creatures, he realizes they are much faster than he thought, but the assassin guarantees he won't die, as he trusts his own skills. Smiling, he promises he'll finish everything in 3 minutes, tops. Advancing on the larvae, the assassin prepares for another quick battle. From a distance, he yells, asking if they can get chicken and beer later. With a smile on his face, the man says thanks and prepares for the attack. With his strikes, the assassin destroys the creatures with impressive speed. Impressed by the scene, he receives a notification that the mission is complete. Receiving a system announcement, he reaches S++ rank and earns a badge. As the rewards appear, he finds it all very easy and fast. Now on the third floor, the assassin says his landing was quite slow. After completing the mission, he levels up and gets another badge. Next, the fourth floor mission is completed with the same ease. Celebrating together, they finish the fifth floor and receive the mission notice. With 5 badges accumulated, he receives a new perk and is quite surprised. Then the system explains that he can now perform 2 summons at the same time. Opening his status sheet, he now has the ability to perform 2 simultaneous summons. Completely surprised, he realizes he can bring another ally into the battle. Thinking about the rewards, he realizes that the S++ rank ones are the best of all. Prioritizing the safety band, he runs like an athlete in training. He decides he will survive until he can use the random summon again. While Cossack and his future ally clear the tower, he'll just lay low. At the Awakened management headquarters, a meeting is taking place in silence. With the room empty, the team seems to be just waiting for time to pass. One of the men wonders what the best time to post the announcement would be. Then the woman beside him chimes in, asking if he's thinking thinking about the announcement. Yelling at her, the leader, John Guang-il, tells her to stop reading minds. He asks if the S++ rank announcement has been posted yet, and she confirms it has. The tower announcements have been appearing frequently, always with extremely high ranks. With unprecedented talent, the mysterious player clears floor after floor. If he continues at this pace, the leader slams his hand on the table. The director explains that the highest rank until now was A, surprising everyone. With player kidnappings and migrations, South Korea is losing its talent, so the director orders them to find the mysterious player as soon as possible. 2 days later, the city awakens to a clear sky and a bright sun. While washing the dishes, Kosak confirms they're heading to the 8th floor. Looking at the chart, he realizes it makes sense that everything is going so well. Entering the 8th floor, they walk through a forest with a very dense fog. The current mission is to defeat 10 warrior frogs that appear before them. Using its tongue, one of the frogs launches an attack toward the two men. The assassin then readies his weapon to defend against the monster's attack. With a single strike, he slices through all the frogs, defeating the monsters at once. Receiving the rewards, he levels up and earns another platinum badge. Celebrating the victory, Kosak says that just entering the tower is already difficult. Thanking him for his help, he decides to give the assassin a reward for his hard work. Handing him some money, he tells the man to buy something tasty and not cause any trouble. But Kosak refuses the money, saying he cannot leave his master's side. Excited, the assassin agrees to order chicken for them to eat together at home. In a chicken costume, he gets ready to order the food in the right flavor. Looking at the healing potion, he thinks he should give the item to Kosak. With a pile of mana stones, he realizes he already has a lot of money saved up. On the 10th day, he stretches, thinking about quitting his part-time job. Even though he's clearing the floors with ease, he knows the rewards are the best part. Raising a glass, he praises the assassin's skills, completely at ease. Summoning Kosak, he discovers that the high grades have increased the devotion time. Thanking him for the trust, the assassin makes a heart shape with his hands for his master. Entering the 10th floor, his abilities are enhanced for the new power level. Facing the protective barrier, he can feel the change in his body. With his power overflowing, he feels the tower recalibrating his physical abilities. Comparing his power, he wonders if he's become a wild, untamable horse. Tapping Kosak's shoulder, he announces that from now on, he'll be helping too. The assassin says that if his master gets even a scratch, he'll have to kill himself, but he insists that this time, he needs to join the battle no matter what. From behind a tree, he spots a giant eye peeking through the forest. Emerging from the trees, a giant praying mantis appears, surprising the protagonist. Terrified, he wonders how other players managed to deal with this monster, but the assassin says his pride as a human would be wounded if they fought together, so he decides to leave the fight to Kosak, cheering him on from a distance. The giant monster prepares to attack the small assassin in front of it. With a swift move, the man dodges the blow and prepares to counterattack. With a focused gaze, he lunges towards the monster to end the fight. Flying through the air, he slices the praying mantis into several pieces, finishing the combat. Receiving the rewards, he levels up again and earns another badge. With the mission complete, the assassin celebrates the victory, weapons in hand. Leaving the tower, he's informed that he can now challenge the 11th floor. With another kilogram of mana stones, he accumulates a total of 5 kilograms. Besides the bonuses, he also gained perks for collecting 5 platinum badges. Collecting 5 more, he earns a new perk and is curious to find out what it is. With a smile on his face, he eagerly awaits the new ability he's about to receive. The new perk allows him to copy an ability from his summoned being. The assassin then insists that he must learn the Shadow Step skill. Kosak explains that the skill is useful for escaping dangerous situations. Although offended by the suggestion, he decides he needs to learn the new skill. With the skill learned, it's registered in his status window for use. Kosak says that having a quick step is very important in any combat. To test the ability, he tries to use Shadow Step, but nothing happens. Tired, he complains that there's no consistency in this world's rules. On the 11th day, he makes a call to the management department. Introducing himself, he says he's calling because he recently had an awakening. After being congratulated, the attendant offers a visit from government representatives. After giving his address, he breathes a sigh of relief, exhausted from the call. Walking towards the car, a female agent prepares for another mission. Inside the vehicle, the leader asks if the last awakened person was the S++ rank. With another application today, the agent invites the leader to go with her. Determined to find the right person, he says they need to bring them to the team. While tidying up the house, he gets ready to receive the representatives. Hearing a knock on the door, he realizes the agents have finally arrived. Inviting them in, he comes face to face with leader Jian and manager Lee. The leader introduces himself and says the manager is also a player, just like him. Approaching him, Lee stares at him with a serious look. up close. With their faces close, she asks if he is the S++ rank player. Completely surprised, he backs away from the woman who is staring at him with great intensity. Confused, he wonders if there's some way to detect awakened ones. Determined to hide the truth, he decides to deny everything and act natural. Trying to cover it up, he acts like a robot, saying he's not the person they're looking for. But the agent spots the signs of a lie and eyes him with suspicion. The leader then scolds her, telling her not to pressure people like that. After she apologizes, he realizes the woman was just testing him. Just then, a fairy appears, introducing herself as the mascot of Korea's Black Tower. 20 years ago, the tower appeared all over the world, its size terrifying. Trying to uncover its secrets, countries sent in their armies and scientists. The answer came with the emergence of players who could advance through the floors. Inside the tower, players can use skills and earn valuable rewards. If the floors aren't cleared within 6 months, a countdown begins. In the end, the tower collapses, just like what happened in Mumbai 3 years ago. The mascot explains that South Korea has only one tower and few players. Despite this, the country is making good progress, second only to the United States. With its players, humanity now explores the tower, unraveling its mysteries. You who have awakened are the hope of this era and can become a hero. After the presentation, the leader says he's going to ask some verification questions. Showing his stones, he confirms he is an awakened one and has already reached the 10th floor. The information about the floor surprises them, as it's the same as the S++ record. Glancing sideways, the agent suspects he might be the mysterious player. Then she asks if he's heard about the popular public announcement. Pretending to be a robot, he tries to play it cool, but only makes the agents more suspicious. With a forced, trembling smile, he ends up looking even more suspicious to them. The leader then starts explaining the contract terms, dividing players into groups. The general team is made up of independent players, like freelancers. The elite team, on the other hand, has a close relationship with the government and many benefits. He listens carefully, thinking about what would happen if they discovered his secret. Imagining the fame, he sees himself surrounded by reporters and panics. Afraid of being the center of attention, he rejects the idea of exposing himself. The leader then explains that he will need to film his missions with a body camera. Surprising everyone, he announces he won't be signing up for the elite team. Saying he's happy with the general team, he turns down the better conditions. With a smile, he admits he's scared and prefers to stop at a reasonable floor. Despite their insistence, he says he's already decided on his future. Glancing sideways, the agent realizes the search for that player has ended here. She thinks that many players prefer to stop at a certain point and hunt safely. Scorning his attitude, she thinks he doesn't deserve the power he received. Respecting his choice, the leader says he understands the new player's decision. He then asks the man to enter the tower to confirm he's awakened. He suggests the player take the chance to clear a floor and test it out. Agreeing with the idea, he says it might take him up to 2 hours to get back. With a smile, the agent says they'll wait as long as it takes. Preparing to enter, he gets into position to activate the tower's access portal. Asking them to wait, he offers the agents drinks and TV to keep them occupied. Just then, a portal opens, and the two agents watch the scene closely. The leader confirms he's an awakened one and asks for the agent's opinion. She thinks he has no talent and is too timid to be the player. According to her, the 11th floor tests players' fear with giant centipedes. To her, a coward like him could never kill 100 of those creatures. The leader agrees, saying her predictions have been right so far. Sighing, he decides he'll call the boss and report the failure. Inside the tower, he summons Cossack, who reports for the new mission. Saluting, the assassin gives thanks for being summoned once again. This mission is to eliminate 100 giant centipedes within 3 hours. But the assassin guarantees he can take care of them all in just 5 minutes, so he asks him to hunt the creatures as slowly as possible. With a thumbs up, the assassin understands he needs to be discreet on the mission. With a wicked smile, he plans to fly under the radar with a very bad record. The assassin then starts hunting the centipedes, but far too quickly for the plan. Shouting, he tells Cossack to hunt the monsters slower than before. With the hunting speed reduced, he's satisfied with the battle's pace. Jumping on top of a centipede, he realizes he's made a huge mistake. In a panic, he screams in desperation as he's surrounded by the disgusting creatures. Unable to move, he realizes he needs to use a skill to escape. Turning his head, the assassin notices the danger his master is in. Shouting, he charges forward at high speed to save his master from the centipedes. Furious, he attacks the creatures that dared to threaten his summoner. With precise strikes, he destroys the centipedes, protecting his master's life. Trapped by the monster's legs, he asks the assassin to wait a moment. Begging him to go slow, he watches Kosak destroy everything too quickly. Shouting, the assassin says he will obey, as the master's safety is the priority. Terrified, he realizes that if this keeps up, the plan will be ruined. With the mission's end, he receives the announcement of another S++ rank. Back, the assassin apologizes for not being able to follow his master's plan. Leaving the tower, he's teleported back to his apartment, frustrated with the result. As they wait, the agents believe he'll give up and come out soon. Suddenly, a screen appears in front of them, catching them both by surprise. The system then announces that the 11th floor has been completed with an S++ rank. Right after, he appears in front of the agents, who are shocked by the scene. Confused, they realize the S++ rank announcement appeared at the same time. Growing serious, he is revealed to be the mysterious player everyone was looking for. With a dark look, he says he didn't want to have to do this. Extending his hand, he warns that the two agents will have to be silenced. Shouting Kosak's name, he prepares to give the order to attack. But in his mind, the order to tie them up turns into something much worse. Screaming in terror, he sees the agents' heads adorned with red ribbons. Desperate, he yells that he never gave the order to do that to them. In his vision, the agents apologize for discovering his identity. Confused, the agents ask what's happening to the player in front of them. The leader asks if he's okay. Noticing the man is sweating heavily, playing it cool, he says he's fine, and that the elite team needs his talent. Trying to deceive them, he laughs and says it was all just a big coincidence. But the leader thinks the timing was too perfect to be just a coincidence. Showing him the envelope, the leader says his contract is ready. Terrified, he sees that it's a contract for the elite team, not the standard one. With a smile, the leader says this is a different level of contract. Showing the document, he reveals it's an ultra-elite contract for the player. With $1 billion salary and total security, the contract offers VVIP treatment. On top of that, he would also gain immunity, putting him practically above the law. Shocked by the offer, he discovers that only the #1 player has these benefits. Despite the irresistible offer, he refuses to sign the special contract. Shouting, he says he will only accept the regular contract and nothing more. Not understanding the refusal, the agents ask why he's against the proposal. Being the center of attention is a huge and stressful burden for him. Even in a store, the attention of others makes his heart race with anxiety. The agents realize he's extremely introverted and afraid of exposure. Deciding to back down, the leader agrees to proceed with a standard contract. Although frustrating, the decision is his, and an elite contract comes with responsibilities. The team was created to conquer the upper floors, a pressure he doesn't want. Happy to just live a better life, he forgoes the fame and pressure of the elite. Back at the department, the leader and the agent prepare their report. In the chief's office, he's questioned about the change of plans with the player. The leader confirms that the S++ ranker has a very unique personality. He describes the player as a rare type of common citizen, very different from the others. But the chief questions if they could have been mistaken about his identity. Shouting, the chief orders them to put him on the elite team no matter what. Accepting the order, the leader guarantees he will get the player on the team. Furious, he yells that he already said he won't accept the contract. Tired of pretending, he argues with Kosak for exposing their whole plan. On the 12th floor, the mission is to eliminate 20 ice weasels in 3 hours. Summoning Kosak, he asks the assassin to fight very slowly. Trusting the new order, he believes he can finally throw the government off his trail. But the intense cold freezes his face, and he shivers from the low temperature. As he shivers, he tries to hold on, but the assassin notices something is wrong. Worried, Kosak shouts and promises to finish everything as quickly as possible. Despite being told to calm down, the assassin charges forward, ignoring his master. With swift strikes, he destroys the weasels, believing his master's life is in danger. Shouting, he tries to remind the assassin that he needs to obey his orders. Once again, the system announces that he has achieved an S++ rank on the mission. On the phone, the leader asks if he really cleared the 12th floor. Back home, Kosak celebrates, saying he can finally rest somewhere warm. But before he can watch TV, his master unsummons him with a command. Crying, he says that those who don't obey orders don't deserve to eat. On the 13th floor, the mission is to get through a corridor full of traps. Afraid of the danger, Kosak grabs him, worried he might get hurt. Then he runs, carrying him through the corridor to get past the traps quickly. With another S++ rank, he completes the mission on the 13th floor. On the next floor, Kosak attacks the bats before they can strike. No longer caring, he receives the announcement of yet another S++ rank. Looking at his history, he sees the deposits from selling mana stones. Adding it all up, he calculates his earnings and the total value of the rewards. Smiling, He realizes he's earned over 7 million in just 2 weeks. With a monthly salary of 30 million, he dreams of a life of wealth. The next day, Cossack thanks him for the top score, despite disobeying orders. Lying down, the assassin hears his master tell him to take it easy from now on. Sighing, he realizes his secret is already exposed to the department. With a smile, he gets greedy, thinking about the advantages he can accumulate. Excited, he calls Cossack for another mission, ready for the next floor. This time, the mission is to eliminate 20 goblins working in the floor's forest. From behind a tree, he observes the humanoid monsters for the first time in the tower. Hiding, he hears Cossack tell him to hide well this time. With a confident smile, the assassin says he'll eliminate them all at once. Using a stealth skill, Cossack moves without being noticed by the goblins. Impressed, he watches the assassin move through the forest with insane speed. With swift strikes, the goblins die without even noticing the man's attack. Leveling up, he receives the mission rewards and a new badge. With another S++ rank, he completes the mission and successfully exits the tower. Upon leaving the tower, he and the assassin are teleported back to the apartment. Opening his inventory, he prepares to see the rewards he's accumulated. With a total of 15 badges, he admires the items he's won in the tower. Just then, the system announces he's earned a new perk for collecting the badges. With a smile, he's curious to see what the new skill will be. The new perk is an energy barrier kit added to his inventory. Putting on the bracelet, he reads that the item protects him with an absorbing barrier. With the barrier activated, he realizes the item works like a full set of armor. Testing the item, he celebrates when he discovers he can use the barrier in the real world. Thinking about its value, he considers selling the bracelet and giving up on climbing the tower, but he drops the idea, excited to clear the 16th floor with Cossack. Unsure of what to do, he's hesitant about how to proceed with the challenge. Confused, he wonders if he should sell the bracelet and secure the money. At headquarters, the chief asks how long it's been since the S++ record was updated. The leader informs him it's been 15 days, as the player is stuck on the floor. Angrily, the chief laments that such great talent was given to a player, but the leader believes the player hasn't given up. He's just waiting for the right moment. Receiving a call, he finds out that Bong Joo-hyuk is on his way to the department. Curious, the chief asks the reason for the visit, and the leader says it's the shop. The leader suspects he's repeating the floor to buy items and continue on. Yelling, the chief regrets criticizing the player without knowing the truth. 15 days earlier, he orders them to support the player with cheap quality items. Screaming in terror, the assassin doesn't understand what his master just said. Lifting his shirt, he asks Cossack to stab him with the dagger. Desperate, the man says he'd rather die than have to hurt his master. Pretending not to hear, the assassin refuses to carry out such an absurd order. Determined to test it, he takes the dagger himself and stabs his own stomach. Realizing his mistake, he sees Cossack freak out and try to cut off his own arm. Shouting, the assassin forbids him from doing that again, and he agrees. Climbing the trees, Cossack continues the hunt, killing the floor's monsters. No matter how long it takes, the assassin's hunt is over in 10 minutes. Hiding in the bushes, he decides he needs to practice his skills in the tower. With a focused gaze, he prepares to use the shadow step skill. His body is then enveloped in energy, ready for a quick movement. Using the skill, he moves at high speed, testing his new power. Feeling the power, he realizes what it's like to use the shadow step skill. Moving freely, he understands why Cossack insisted he learn the skill. Suddenly, he stops as he comes across a monster hidden in the bushes. With red eyes, the creature stares at him angrily and lets out a sharp cry. Startled, he recognizes the monster as a goblin and prepares for the worst. Paralyzed, he wonders if the creature was hiding from the assassin. Screaming, the goblin charges toward him, ready to attack with all its might. Using the barrier, he manages to block the blow and prepares to strike back. With one strike, he hits the goblin, which screams in pain from the impact. Seeing the scene, Cossack realizes his master is in a dangerous battle. Praising the opening, the assassin moves in and finishes the monster with a single blow. With a serious look, he realizes his master took a reckless risk. Shouting, the assassin flies toward the player, worried for his safety. Rushing to him, Cossack asks if he's okay after the fight. Desperate, the man shakes him and asks why he fought a goblin. Bertilak scolds him, telling him not to fly too close to the sun, while Bong agrees to be careful. By repeating the floor for 2 weeks, he gathered many mana stones and got used to his abilities. Then, he calls the shop and asks if he can come over, accepting their offer of transportation. A limousine then pulls up in front of his house, ready to take him to the shop. Arriving at the location, he gets out of the car and looks at the entrance of the large building. Greeted by the team leader, he says it's been a long time. Welcoming him, the team leader invites him into the management department. To enter, he registers his hand on a panel, confirming his identity in the system. The leader then tells him he doesn't need to call anymore, but Bong refuses the tour. Entering the player's shop, he goes through an automatic door and is greeted by a message. Looking around, he He sees how luxurious the shop is and notices there are no other customers. Approaching a display case, he looks at the items and decides to sell his mana stones first. At the sales counter, the clerk confirms the amount and says he can use it right away. The clerk wishes him happy shopping, and he turns to browse the items. Changing scenes, a man is informed that Bong is shopping and the store has been closed off. Questioning the prices, the man says he gave him a 90% discount. Changing scenes again, the sun sets on the horizon, marking the end of the day in the city. Back in his room, he tests his new equipment, a mace and a pair of boots. He then thinks about how the items are usually more expensive and that the leader came in person. Despite being uncomfortable with the special treatment, he can't deny the boots are beautiful. The boots grant him an energy barrier, and he's grateful for the perks he's received. Deciding not to be greedy, he admits the perks he got are very tempting. The next day, he summons John Cusack and tells him they're going to the 16th floor. Looking to the side, he realizes the cooldown for his summon has finally ended. A man then shouts excitedly, asking him to perform another summon immediately. Clasping his hands, he concentrates to use his random summon skill. He and the other man watch as a silhouette forms in the middle of a summoning circle. Seeing the figure, he approaches and asks him to wait a moment, analyzing the situation. Suddenly, the summoned figure just throws itself onto the ceiling. Startled by what happened, he wonders what kind of thing he managed to summon. From the broken pieces, a hand slowly begins to form in front of everyone. Soon after, a foot also emerges from the debris, showing that something is taking shape. Fully formed, a giant barbarian appears, startling the boy with his size and presence. Wondering if it's human or monster, the creature stares him down with a menacing look. Calling the barbarian an idiot, Cusack rushes toward him to land a blow. With a swift move, he lands a heavy punch right in the huge barbarian's face. Continuing the assault, he lands several more hits and tells him to lower his eyes immediately. Without even flinching, the barbarian says he didn't feel a thing, that the punches just tickled. Holding two daggers, Cusack threatens to cut off his head and tie it up with a bow. Just as he's about to deliver the final blow, he's interrupted by Bong, who yells for him to stop. While Bong worries about the broken ceiling, Cusack celebrates the mess he's made. Asking Cusack to back off, Bong is told that the barbarian is an infamous idiot. Trying to recite the principles, Gobang gets all mixed up and messes up the rules he studied. Seeing the mistake, Cusack says they need to finish him, surprising Bong, who didn't know about that rule. Just then, a window pops up showing Gobang's information, a meat shield of the tribe. Analyzing the info on the screen, he wonders if he should wait a month to summon again. Asking a few questions, he discovers that Gobang remembers nothing about his past. As he tries to read the detailed description, something unexpected happens and completely surprises him. Being pulled into the memories, he realizes it's the same thing that happened with Cusack. Arriving in a lush green field, he floats through the scenery and wonders where he is now. In this place, Gobang interacts with nature, showing himself to be a pure-souled being. Despite all his purity, giant wolves appear to attack Gobang by surprise. Even while being attacked, he invites the wolves to play, displaying incredible physical abilities. Watching from a distance, a blonde man comments that Gobang is huge, just as he'd heard. Introducing himself as Arius, he asks for Gobang's name, which he can't even remember. Deceived by a false hero, Gobang was used as a shield against a hydra. Fighting with his own body, he endured the blows to protect his teammates. In the end, he was dissolved, while his companions laughed at the situation and mocked him. Seeing only his skeleton, Bong finally understands why his name is Meat Shield. Back in his room, he laments Gobang's fate, saying it doesn't matter that he's like that. Welcoming him, he invites him to climb the tower together and face the challenges. To start, he says he'll give him a name, but Gobang doesn't know which one to choose. Asking him to choose one, the barbarian finally says he prefers the name Gobang. Promising to make him happy, he asks if Gobang trusts him, receiving a positive response. Saying they are now companions, he leaves Cusack shocked by the new team formation. With the calculation complete, he seems to have reached a conclusion about everything. Celebrating, Cusack says he'll teach him well, and they decide to go to the 16th floor. Cusack then yells at Gobang, telling him to stop copying him and calling him a punk. A system window appears, informing them they have entered the 16th floor of the tower. Now with the skills available, he says they're going to make this new team work. In the forest, the mission is to eliminate 30 goblins, and Cusack asks him to activate the barrier. Surrounded by goblins, Cusack warns that they shoot poison darts without them noticing. Just then, a poison dart is fired and flies quickly toward his back. Showing the shooter, a goblin blows its blowgun, launching the dart with great speed. Saving him, Cossack catches the dart with his bare hand before it can hit him. Yelling about the ambush, he sees several goblins attacking from all sides with their darts. As Bong dodges, Cossack yells for him to be careful and blocks several of the shots. Realizing there were too many enemies, he notices they were all waiting for them there. He then shouts for Gobang to get in front of them and stop all the enemy attacks. With a serious expression, Gobang prepares to receive and carry out his master's order. Stomping his foot hard on the ground, he gets ready to launch his counterattack against the goblins. With a powerful leap, he jumps high into the air, surprising all the goblins there. In the air, he taunts the goblins, making them all aim at him, leaving Cossack quite surprised. Cossack looks up, completely confused, wondering what he's trying to do. Crashing down to the ground, he lands a blow that sends all the goblins flying. Caught in the blast, Cossack is also thrown back and yells at Gobang. Hiding, Bong watches the scene, impressed by the physical strength he just witnessed. More goblins appear and prepare to fire another round of poison darts. Taking the hits, Gobang warns that it won't work and that it just tickles him. Saying he heard the order, he charges forward and starts attacking all the goblins in the forest. Impressed, he wonders if the barbarian is only R rank because he isn't very smart. After the battle, they celebrate with several boxes of fried chicken, showing off the great reward. Eating everything, Gobang says the chicken is delicious, while Bong praises his performance. At that, Cossack argues with Gobang and eats a spicy chicken, breathing fire from his mouth. Hearing Gobang say he's good, Bong eats a piece of chicken and is surprised. Pounding his chest, Gobang says chicken gives life as Bong asks him for help. Suddenly, Cossack shouts and corrects him, saying the right word is chicken, not kitchen. Bong then argues with him for scaring him, while Cossack thinks Gobang needs some education. The next day, they finally enter the 17th floor of the tower, receiving new notifications. Testing his muscles, he feels an uncontrollable power now that he's at level 17. Feeling the strength awaken, he prepares to finally enter the battle alongside the others. Cossack says he'll take the lead, but Gobang insists on protecting his summoner. The floor's mission is revealed. They must eliminate a total of 30 warrior goblins. Seeing the army, he realizes he had no idea how big it was just from watching videos. Analyzing the situation, he notes that the enemies are numerous and skilled in tactics. Remembering the strategy, he knows he needs to fall back and wait for the enemies to spread out into patrols. Luring and defeating groups of 3 was the standard tactic, but it would take too long. Without needing a lengthy process, he simply calls for Gobang, who answers the call. Pointing forward, he simply gives the order for Gobang to advance against them. With a war cry, Gobang shows off his power, making his master much more confident. So he orders his summon to finish them all, already thinking about the next big reward. Charging forward, Gobang rushes straight towards the goblins to start the fight. Seeing him approach, one of the goblin warriors shouts an attack order to everyone. Ready for combat, the goblin battalion points their spears, waiting for the attack. Charging into the spears, he simply ignores all the strikes and keeps moving forward. With a single blow, he sends all the enemies flying, easily clearing a path. Fallen on the ground, the goblins and their broken weapons show the result of the powerful strike. Impressed by the scene, he comments that Gobang is doing incredibly well in battle. Their strategy is useless, like bicycles trying to attack a huge, powerful war tank. As the battle ends, a notification announces he achieved S+ rank. Surprised by the result, he says it was impressive, while Cossack watches him from behind. Cossack then looks to the side in shock, shouting the summoner Bong's name in disbelief. Immediately after, the 18th floor mission appears. Eliminate 30 assassins. Arriving on the new floor, they face a group of goblin assassins in the middle of the forest. Giving the signal to advance, Gobang once again rushes to face the new threat. Unlike the others, these monsters use stealth abilities to move quickly. Hit by the blows, Gobang is confused about where the attacks came from. Looking around, he searches for the enemies who hit him, but finds no one. Watching the scene from afar, Bong seems a little worried about the unfolding situation. Telling them to show themselves, he calls the assassins cowards while trying to land hits in the air. Suddenly, a loud laugh echoes throughout the forest, coming from the treetops. Cossack then says he will purify his eyes with a much classier strategy. He then uses his shadow step, moving at lightning speed. With his movements, he defeats several goblin assassins, showcasing his great skill. Seeing this, Bong looks impressed by what Cossack is doing in front of him. With a smile on his face, he reveals that Cossack fell right into his plan. Stirring up the competition, Cossack hits Gobang, who also decides to join the big battle. He then thinks that he needs to keep improving his skills to earn more and more rewards. Now at level 18, he holds his mace and prepares to enter the fight. He then concentrates to finally use his long-hidden ability. Unleashing the wild horse, he uses his power, completely transforming and surprising everyone. Remembering he checked the strategy, he feels confident for the 18th floor. Since the goblin's stealth is weak, he can detect their movements by concentrating. Fearlessly, he prepares for combat, as he has trained his shadow step extensively. Using his speed, he rushes through the forest. But he loses his balance and yells, nearly falling to the ground. Yet he still manages to land a direct hit on the goblin with his powerful mace. Defeating the enemy, the count of eliminated goblins finally reaches 10 out of 30. Celebrating the successful hunt, he says he caught the goblin exactly as planned. Just then, an enemy appears from above and attacks him by surprise with a deadly blow. Cossack then joins the fight and defeats several enemies, rapidly increasing the kill count. With only 3 left to go, he sees another goblin finally being defeated. While Cossack fights, Gobang also appears and prepares a powerful blow with his fists. With a double attack, he strikes the ground, creating an impact that hits everyone. Sending the last goblins flying, the 18th floor mission is completed. While Gobang helps, Cossack yells at him to get out of the way, saying he's interfering with the fight. Searching for him, Cossack wonders where the summoner Bong went amidst the confusion. Suddenly, a loud impact occurs, drawing everyone's attention in the dark forest. Appearing in the middle of the battlefield, he dodges a goblin assassin's strike. With a hand on his head, he realizes the barrier saved him from danger. Fallen on the ground, he sees enemies leaping to attack him from all sides. Fueled by adrenaline, he manages to quickly dodge the blow coming his way. Perceiving the goblin's movement in slow motion, he prepares for a counterattack. With his perception altered, he feels as if the world has slowed down. Landing a blow, he defeats the enemies and receives the S+ rank notification. Running through the forest, Cossack rushes towards him, shouting his name loudly. Looking at the notification, he comments that he thinks he landed the final blow on the enemies. On his knees, Cossack is devastated next to Gobang for not having finished the mission himself. Changing scenes, a woman is surprised to see an announcement about the 18th floor. Her boss then celebrates, saying he is unstoppable and very well prepared. The boss wants to reveal his identity, but the others warn that it's too dangerous. The team leader says he is a special player who requires delicate handling. Meanwhile, a news report covers the 18 completed floors, rewriting the tower's history. The entire nation becomes interested in discovering the identity of the mysterious S-rank player. Back in the room, Cossack sighs deeply, leaving Bong a bit confused by the situation. Asking him to speak up, Bong hears that things are happening too quickly for him. Cossack then explains it's the speed at which his talent is finally revealing itself. Not understanding at all, he asks if Cossack is really talking about his talent. Laughing at the situation, he says it must be a joke, gesturing with his hands. Cossack denies it's a joke, saying that his shadow step was a perfect move. Precisely because of that, he warns that the whole situation becomes even more dangerous. Recalling the promise they made, he says that safety must always come first. Agreeing with everything, he promises not to do anything dangerous, only what is necessary. Although hesitant, Cossack just agrees with the promise he just made in the room. Despite the smile, Cossack feels that his summoner is still going to cause a major accident. Desperate at the thought, he starts to cry while holding his head tightly. Watching the scene, Gobang calls him an idiot for crying like that. Angry, Cossack charges forward and lands a blow, saying he'll cook him alive in a pot. Knocking Gobang to the floor, he continues his attack, making a huge mess in the apartment. Desperate, Bong screams as he sees the contents of his fridge spilling all over the floor. Yelling for them to stop, he unsummons them to prevent any more destruction in his home. On his knees, he mourns the loss of the kimchi his mother had given him. Wanting to clear his head, he decides to visit his parents' house the next day. The next morning, he walks towards the apartment where his family lives. Opening the door, he announces that her son has finally come to visit. As he enters, he's greeted by his mother's voice, inviting him in, asking about his father's health. His mother complains that he should visit them more often. His father then grumbles that bones don't heal easily, while his mother helps him. When he asks about his brother, his mother says he went out to buy tofu and will be back soon. The family then gathers to eat a stew his mother prepared for everyone. During the meal, they talk about their struggles and tell him not to worry. As he eats, he thinks about how nice it would have been if he had awakened at that moment. Asked about the tower, he realizes he probably should have been a bit more subtle. His father and brother laugh at the idea, with his dad saying he asks his mom for help. His mother then asks if he isn't going to work, and he says it's his day off. She says his face gives away the lie, but he denies it. Still, she smiles and says she trusts her son, which moves him. Right after, she forbids him from getting involved with loan sharks, leaving him completely shocked. This This reminds him of a news story about a murder he had completely forgotten. She then explains that she was fired for standing up to a rude customer. His father fell in love with her because she couldn't tolerate injustice, seeing her as his greatest achievement. An image then shows how the father's genes were passed down to both sons. Leaving the house, he decides to talk about his awakening when things have calmed down. Once outside, his brother finds him and hands him an envelope with money. He explains it's an allowance for their parents, telling him to ask them not to work too hard. Watching his brother leave, he looks back, a little confused. Thinking about his brother's attitude, he concludes it's because he paid for his college. He then says he knows how his brother feels, even if he's too shy to say thank you. The younger brother then takes the chance to ask for his share of the allowance too. Annoyed with his brother, he transfers the money and tells him not to waste it. Walking through the city, he arrives in front of the awakened management department. He considers going home, but after seeing his family, he decides to go ahead. Remembering he should have given notice, he feels bad in case his team leader comes looking for him. Even with the barrier, he knows the monsters on the next floors will be stronger. Thinking about his safety, he decides the best option is to buy a good shield. Shocked by the price, he's speechless when he learns it costs 100 million. Stammering, he declines the purchase and complains about the number of people in the place. The saleswoman then offers a more suitable shield, small, light, and with self-repair. Equipping the new item, he likes how the shield matches his mace. Confirming the payment of 40 million, he finalizes the purchase of the new shield. He then thinks that talking to the clerk was harder than dealing with goblins. With his shopping done, he thinks he can finally go home and get some rest. As he's approached, a man asks if he awakened a long time ago, leaving him quite confused. Introducing himself as Choi Hoseok, he extends his hand and says he's also a player. Shaking his hand, Bong introduces himself and says he's on the 10th floors of the tower. Hoseok then offers to help if he runs into any trouble during his journey. Saying he hasn't had any trouble yet, he thanks him for the offer and observes Hoseok's demeanor. Saying goodbye, Hoseok leaves, and Bong thinks about how fascinating and enviable he is. Back in his apartment, night falls over the city, illuminated by the moonlight. Looking at his status, he sees he's at level 19 and can go to the next floor. He decides to call Kosak to reach an agreement before continuing his journey. A notification then informs him that John Kosak has been successfully summoned to his apartment. Thanking him for the evaluation, Kosak bows as a sign of loyalty to his new summoner. Excited, Bong shows off his new shield, surprising Kosak that he's enjoying the journey. He tells him not to worry, as he will prioritize safety and give up if it gets too hard. With a smile, he promises he won't take the lead or rush in without thinking. On his knees, he promises to sacrifice himself, but Kosak prefers he sacrifice Gobang first. Ready to start, Kosak suddenly smells something strange in the air and becomes alert. Bong then reveals he bought dumplings for him, leaving Kosak moved by the gesture of loyalty. About to eat, Kosak thanks him and calls out to Summoner Bong to ask an important question. He then asks if Bong holds a grudge against anyone, receiving a negative response. Suddenly, Kosak warns that there's someone outside with a strong killing intent. Confused, Bong questions the killing intent and hears someone calling from outside. Telling him to hide, Kosak activates an energy barrier to protect the entire apartment. In that moment, a surveillance device peeking through the door is completely destroyed by the barrier. Crouching on the floor, he watches the remains of the mechanical eye roll slowly toward him. At the door, a man appears with a gun and greets whoever is inside the apartment. Looking at the man, he's shocked because he recognizes him from a previous encounter. Revealing he's the guy from the store, he says it was pretty hard to follow him. Pointing the gun, he tells Bong to open his inventory before he turns him into a sieve. With the gun to his head, he wonders what the man was thinking, threatening him like this. Behind him, Kosak appears, making Bong think this is basically suicide. Pointing a gun at him, the intruder asks if he thinks this is a joke. With a smile, he says he chose a good target to intimidate this time. Shouting, he orders the young man to open his inventory before he beats him up. Suddenly, a powerful blow lands squarely on the back of the aggressor's head. Turning around, he's surprised to see an armed figure standing right there. Then the intruder simply collapses to the floor, completely knocked out from the attack. Looking up, the young man is totally confused by what just happened. Changing his tune, he praises Mr. Kosak, saying he was great. He explains he was worried he might kill the guy without thinking. Then, he wonders if the attacker was an item broker. He remembers hearing about people who steal items from other players. In a memory, it's mentioned that players outside the tower have personal protection. He thinks that without his summoning ability, he would have been killed right there. As he ties a ribbon, he comments that this ability is really good. Afterward, he suggests getting rid of the guy, but is told it's better to just call the police. Indignant, A gentleman asks if player Bong stopped by the shop again. Confirming the visit, a man in a suit says he bought a small buckler. Asking about its stats, they conclude he must be a melee type. He then decides he'll come up with an excuse to give him a full set of armor. Just then, his cell phone rings, and he excuses himself to take a call from the police. After introducing himself, he's shocked and shouts, asking what they said. Far away, a car speeds through a dark city alley, tires screeching. Running through the street, the man rushes up a staircase with a desperate expression. He regrets not closing the elite contract, worried about player Bong. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, police officers arrest the intruder, who grumbles in pain. Desperate, the intruder shouts that he's innocent and was kidnapped by the young man. Imagining he could go to prison, the young man is terrified by the thought. Suddenly, the door opens and the team leader arrives, telling everyone to wait. Recognizing the man, the intruder calls him by name, seeming relieved by his arrival. Walking towards him, the intruder says he came from the department and saved his life. As he tries to explain, he takes a hard punch straight to the face from the leader. Kneeling and confused, he asks why he was hit, as the leader yells at him. Being informed that his registration was canceled, he still insists he's the victim. Completely indifferent to his protests, the leader continues to stare at him with contempt. Ordering the officers to take him away, he warns that the NIS will arrive soon to interrogate him. Begging for mercy, he's told he's a scoundrel and a repeat offender. Angrily, the leader tells him to go find a lawyer to defend him. As he's dragged away, the leader explains the arrest protocol to the officers. Turning to the young man, he asks with a frightening expression if he's hurt. Calling him Player Bong, he faces him with a serious and worried look. Bowing, he apologizes and promises to be better prepared next time. With a determined face, he reaffirms his decision to protect Player Bong. Elsewhere, the young man comments to his servant about the intruder's arrest. Asked about the detention center, he says not to try and find its location. Soon after, a system message appears, designating the new summoned being. Impressed, the new servant says it's the first time he's seen so many stars. Entering the Black Tower, the mission is revealed. Defeat 30 goblin shamans. On this floor, the goblins use curses and weak attacks, so they aren't very threatening. Charging at the enemies, the big guy runs without any concern for the danger. In response, the goblins begin to prepare a curse to attack the servant, but with a powerful shout, he manages to break the curse on his own. Impressed by the scene, the young man comments that it was a rather crude method. Coming up from behind, the other servant appears to give the next orders. He tells the big guy to clear the floor as quickly as possible, as they agreed. Together, the two servants charge full force at the remaining enemies. With a series of blows, they destroy all the goblins in seconds. Preparing to fight, the young man also decides to join the combat. But before he can attack, the mission completion notification appears. Shocked by their speed, he stares at his two servants standing before him. Smiling, the servant asks if that was good, but Bong thinks they tricked him. Then the system informs him that he has reached S++ rank and earned a reward. The next day, the group enters the feared and long-awaited 20th floor of the tower. Worried, the servant warns that the place is dangerous and full of different kinds of goblins. Suggesting he stay safe, the other servant says he'll kill them all himself. For the mission, they need to defeat 100 goblins and 1 hobgoblin in 10 hours. Annoyed at being left out, the young man realizes the servant is blocking his path. Ordering the big guy to lure the enemies, the other servant prepares to strike in the opening. On a cliff, the goblin shamans begin to conjure a powerful group attack. Right after, goblin scouts suddenly appear, ready to throw their darts. Along with them, infantry soldiers advance with their spears and swords drawn. To complete the ambush, hidden assassins finally reveal themselves, ready for combat. Unfazed, the servant questions if the enemies think he'll just take this. In a swift move, Bong launches himself into the air and announces he's going ahead. Landing on the servant's back, he uses it as a boost to move forward, surprising him. Leaping into the middle of all the enemies, he dives headfirst into battle. Seeing this, the servant notes that he did, in fact, dive into the fight. At that, the servant Cossack yells at him not to do that under any circumstances. In a flashback, he remembers always being an introvert, playing alone in his corner. Then, another boy simply grabs his toy, saying he's going to play with the car. Running off, the boy takes the toy, leaving him behind, unable to react. In elementary school, things got worse, with a beggar note taped to his back. Moving on to middle school, he remained a loner, always being teased by other students. Even in high school, he continued to eat alone, living the life of a complete social outcast. Afraid to try and change, He wondered if he could face the monsters in the tower. But monsters aren't people. They're like enemies in a game, with no relationships or fears. All he has to do is crush them. He only seeks the reward he'll get in the end. Screaming desperately, Cossack tries to stop him from charging into the middle of the battle alone. The goblins then charge, shouting a war cry and rushing the group. Moving swiftly, he dodges their attacks as he advances through the enemy-filled battlefield. Approaching a scout, he prepares to block the goblin's attack with his weapon. With a quick move, he lands a powerful blow right on the monster's face. Continuing the assault, he hits several enemies with a flurry of strikes, clearing a path. Surprised, Cossack realizes he's already using the shadow step at this level of combat. Seeing the multiple attacks coming, Cossack desperately yells for him to be very careful. Using his newly bought shield, he defends against the many blows coming his way. With the energy barrier, he manages to protect himself from becoming an easy target. Realizing the danger, he thinks he might have gotten a little too carried away with the situation. He starts running desperately, screaming for help and calling for his summons. Answering the call, Cossack tells him to keep running toward the cliff just ahead. Beating his chest, Gobang prepares to protect his summoner at all costs. Running non-stop, he starts to get out of breath and realizes he's getting tired. Looking ahead, he's stunned by what he sees, left completely speechless. Reaching the cliff, he asks if they're there yet, but finds nothing. Surrounded by goblins, he panics and wonders what he should do now. Just as he thinks he's going to die, a huge hand appears and protects him from the goblins' attacks. Appearing before him, Gobang shields him from the monster's assault, facing them all down. With a single smash on the ground, he attacks the goblins, sending them all flying. Praising his work, Cossack sees that the summoner managed to clear a path on the cliff. At the top, the goblin shamans scream and prepare another one of their attack spells. Appearing suddenly, Cossack surprises one of the shamans and gets ready for a surprise attack. With a swift move, he rushes forward and defeats all the shamans on the cliff. Seeing all the enemies down, he wonders if the mission is almost over. Realizing they've already defeated 100 enemies, he expects the last one to appear any moment. Impressed by the scene, Bong comments that they cleared everything in an instant. Asking Gobang to go forward, he hides behind his summon to protect himself. Hearing a strange sound, he's startled by the noise echoing throughout the area. Suddenly, the hobgoblin appears, the final evolution of goblins, to face them in battle. Rushing forward, Cossack charges toward the monster to start the floor's final battle. Leaping, he uses his skill to attack the hobgoblin with an overhead strike. Shouting, Gobang tells him to leave it to him and advances to face the large monster. With a powerful blow, he blocks the hobgoblin's attack with his arm, using his sword. Catching the blade, the hobgoblin shows its full strength by stopping the summon's blow. Moving in, Cossack tells the monster to hold on tight, preparing his next attack. With both blades, he strikes the hobgoblin, finishing the battle with a powerful blow. With the victory, he levels up and receives several rewards for clearing the floor. Cossack then praises their work, while Bong thinks it's better to just leave everything to them. He thanks them for their protection. Exhausted, the two summons fall to the ground, content with their loyalty. With the 20th floor cleared, he receives a platinum emblem and can move on to the next one. A news report announces that the 20th floor of the tower has been cleared, breaking a new record. Worried, he thinks that the record is good, but the attention could be a problem. When asked about controlling the press, the chief refuses, not wanting to leak that they know the record holder. The team leader then hands over an envelope with the investigation on Bong's family. The investigation shows that his father is in rehab after hip surgery. The chief then approves the idea of moving him to the best facility in the country. His younger brother is in college and will soon enlist in the army as well. His mother, who worked as a coordinator, is currently unemployed after a conflict with a client. Whispering, he points out that the mother is the one who needs the most attention in the family. With the plan in mind, he decides to proceed immediately to support player Bong's family. Hearing a knock on the door, his summons get excited about the arrival of the food delivery. As Gobang gets excited about the food, Bong tells him to be quiet for a moment. Telling them to hide, he throws a sheet over them so no one can see them. The delivery guy arrives with 12 bowls of noodles and asks if he's throwing a party. Thanking him for the meal, the delivery guy leaves, and Bong complains about the freebie he received. Looking for coupons, he gets annoyed when he realizes he didn't get any with the order. He then thinks that even if he had, he couldn't order food using only coupons. Telling them to come out, Gobang is captivated by the delicious smell of the food. Asking if he's eaten yet, Gobang's mouth waters, ready to dig in. While Gobang eats, he tells him to go ahead, as he needs to check something first. Opening his inventory, he gets ready to see the reward he got from the last floor. The notification says that benefits are given for collecting 20 platinum emblems. Realizing he already has 20, he wonders what kind of benefit he'll receive. A random box appears as the new benefit, surprising him with the mysterious reward. Confused, he wonders what it is, surprised by the random box he just got. Looking at the options, He wonders why there are so many different types of rewards. Ignoring the most common items, he thinks weapons and armor aren't that great either. Analyzing the rewards, he realizes the level rune is much better than the ticket. He then sees a ticket to access towers in other countries, finding it an interesting option. The best of all seems to be a guaranteed grade summon ticket, an incredible reward. Imagining an easy life, he pictures himself climbing the tower while lying down with a powerful servant. With a smile, he thinks there's a chance to get something good from the box. Reaching out, he opens the box, promising to live a virtuous life if he gets something good. The random box then starts to glow, spinning in the air before revealing its reward. Anxious about what he'll get, he waits for the result of the first opened random box. In his inventory, a 10-kilogram mana stone appears as the first reward. Disappointed, he complains that he can get mana stones whenever he wants. Opening the second one, the random box glows brightly, revealing another mysterious reward. A new skill is acquired, the Primal Thunder Staff, a powerful attack item. Moving on to the last box, he opens it, hoping for an even better reward. From the box, a summon enhancement rune is finally revealed as the reward. Celebrating the reward, he shouts that he finally hit the jackpot with the box. With the rune, he can now increase the grade of one of his summons. Facing a dilemma, he needs to decide whether to give the rune to Kozak or Gobang. Thinking about the battles they've had, he considers giving the valuable reward to Kozak. Reading the description, he decides to call Kozak later to give him the powerful rune. Before handing over the rune, he decides it's better to test the new skill. The new skill, the Primal Thunder Staff, is a growth type and has 3 forms. Unlocking the first form, the skill's usage is transferred directly to his brain. Holding his mace, he prepares to finally test the new skill's power. Shouting the skill's name, he fires a beam of energy from his mace. The strike has no effect, vanishing into thin air without hitting anything at all. Resolved, he decides to test the new skill's power inside the tower later. Kozak asks why he's swinging his mace, and he says he got a new skill. He then confirms it's a growth type attack skill, giving a signal. Sitting on the floor, Kozak cries in despair, surrounded by a very dramatic scene. Gobang then takes the last bowl and offers it to him, showing his generosity. Angry, Kozak argues with him, telling him to spit out the food, but Gobang refuses. The next day, he reflects on Kozak's concerns and his new skill. Sitting in the room, he thinks he understands his summon's worries about everything. With the summoner trait, the creatures are responsible for most of the combat power. Thus, the summoner doesn't necessarily need to join the fight, especially someone like him. Kozak's previous summoner, who had the same trait, was much stronger than him. Despite all his power, he ended up dying, and his world was completely destroyed. It's natural for Kozak to be worried, but he decides to move forward with determination. Determined, he says he's a person too and needs to use his own skills. Confident, he believes that persuading the two of them to work together will finally work. A notification then informs him that his 2 servants have been successfully summoned to the apartment. Shivering, Kozak appears, showing how worried he's become in just one day. He then reveals he got a new attack skill, leaving Kozak much more relieved. He warns that orcs are a problem, unlike the goblins he has faced so far. Kozak apologizes in advance, saying he is about to commit a great sin. Denying he's going to do anything bad, he gives him a serious and determined look. Shouting, he activates the 3rd principle of summoning, to protect his summoner. The principles state that the summoner's protection is the highest of all priorities. Held by Gobang, he is unable to move, trapped in his arms. Kozak then shouts, telling Gobang to hold him tight after they enter the tower. Realizing the conspiracy, he understands the two of them planned everything to keep him safe. Taking a deep breath, he laments having to go this far to get what he wants. Using his Sad Eyes attack, he begs them to give him a chance. Crying, he promises he won't run off alone anymore, and that he'll bet everything on this. Kozak relents a bit, but Bong asks him to trust him just one more time. If he insists, Kozak agrees, but warns that he will intervene if there's any danger. They then enter the 21st floor of the tower, ready for the new challenge. Walking through the forest, they talk about the orcs, with Gobang thinking he's smarter. Equipped, he asks to practice about 10 times, but Kozak says he can do it 100. Using Gobang as a guinea pig, Kozak tells him to hit him, much to Bong's surprise. Threatening to go alone, he ends the argument, since Gobang wouldn't get hurt anyway. Deciding to go, he thinks it's easier to practice on an orc than on Gobang. The floor's mission is to defeat 30 forest orcs within 4 hours. Kozak charges in first, and Gobang says he's also heading into the fray. The two then charge forward together, leaping into the midst of the enemies and starting the fight. With a powerful blow, Gobang crushes one of the orcs, showing off his strength and resilience. Meanwhile, Kosak takes down several enemies with his speed and precise strikes. Impressed by their speed, he's surprised at how fast they are in battle. Worried, he thinks he won't be able to get a single enemy if they keep this up. An orc then approaches Kosak from behind, preparing a surprise attack with its axe. With a smile, he realizes Kosak has set aside one of the enemies for him to fight. Using his skill, he dashes towards the approaching orc. As the orc prepares, he says he'll just watch the fight from the back. Using his skill, he charges forward. The orc then retaliates with an axe swing, but he easily dodges it. Leaping into the air, he prepares a simple vertical strike against the monster below. Concentrating power into his mace, he gets ready to unleash the attack's full force. The skill's description then appears, showing the first form of the Thunderstaff. Coming down with full force, he lands a heavy blow right on the huge orc's head. Taking the hit head-on, the orc feels the full impact of the powerful attack. With a smile, he realizes his strike's power is anything but weak. Seeing the fallen enemy, he readies himself for the rest of the battle in the forest. With a smile, he says it was easy, almost too easy for his liking. Suddenly, an orc appears behind him, ready to strike with its axe. With a defiant look, he wonders if he'll have to face another enemy alone. Gobang then stomps on the orc, preventing it from getting close enough to attack its master. With the mission complete, he levels up and receives several rewards for his success. The next day, he defeats a desert orc with a single powerful blow. The day after, he defeats a cave orc, showcasing his new combat strength. Once again, he achieves an S+ rank, now on the 23rd floor of the tower. With some difficulty, he defeats a volcano orc, climbing 1 floor per day. With another victory, he achieves an S+ rank on the 24th floor. The next day, he prepares for the long-awaited 25th floor of the tower. Despite his eagerness to fight, he knows he needs to build trust with his summons. After some thought, he decides he'll give the rune to one of his summons today. Upon being summoned, Kosak salutes and asks why he was called on his day off. Handing him the rune, he says he picked it up on the way, but Kosak doesn't understand what it is. Holding the rune, Kosak trembles with emotion as he sees what he has just received. Shocked, he shouts, asking what it is, surprised by the grade increase. Trembling, he can hardly believe that Bong is actually giving the rune to him. Happily, he says that now he can protect Summoner Bong even better than before. He asks if the upgrade will start now, but Kosak says it's dangerous. Promising to do it when he returns, he says he'll come back with a new look. Having made up his mind, he says he'll just watch some television before he goes. As they watch, he complains about the price of the rerun, but Kosak tells him to just watch. Bong then grabs the remote, but Kosak tells him to change the channel back immediately. Stopping on a news channel, he sees his mother protesting on television. Shocked, he wonders why his mother is appearing in the middle of the news. The news report shows she is protesting against an unfair dismissal and contract. Tired of the situation, she says she can't take this kind of unfair termination anymore. She recalls the client who told her to sort the trash, even though it wasn't her job. The company ordered her to apologize, but she refused and received a notice. Her protest, lasting over 10 days, only earned her the scorn of the company's executives. Angrily, she threatens to run over anyone who laughs at her situation. Just then, a man approaches and asks if she is Mrs. Hong Gum-ja. Introducing himself, he says he is lawyer Lee Chang-seok from a law firm. Confused, she wonders why a law firm would be looking for her. Angrily, she thinks the company is trying to sue her and decides she won't back down. Shouting that she won't back down, she tells them to go ahead with the lawsuit. Handing her a card, he says he came to formally sue the Jinsamul Corporation. Korea's top law firm, Park & Kim, is offering to represent her for free. He explains that he heard about the case from an acquaintance, and that it's a pro bono project. Suspicious, she wonders if she should accept the offer, even though it seems too good to be true. With the decision made, the lawyer assures her they will stake their honor on this case. Trusting in his defense, she finally accepts the help of the lawyer who appeared before her. With a snap of his fingers, he gets ready to start the media work for the case. Suddenly, several reporters appear and surround his mother, ready for the interview. The lawyer then instructs her to answer the questions, revealing the whole truth about the case. With a determined look, she prepares to tell her story to all the reporters. Back in his apartment, he feels guilty that his mother is suffering alone. With his hands on his head, he regrets not being able to help at a time like this. Confused, he wonders how his mother got a lawyer from such an expensive firm. Kosak then offers to visit the Jinsemel company and resolve the situation his own way. Bong praises his summon's attitude, but he knows he can't let that happen. He asks Kosak not to interfere, as his mother seems to have a good lawyer. Worried, he considers sending money for the fees and selling his items if necessary. His cell phone rings and he answers, seeing it's a call from his father. His father tells him the legal fees are free, which surprises him. His father then reveals he received a call from the hospital, leaving him very confused. His father explains that he was selected for a rehabilitation project at Ilsong Hospital. Hearing the news, he promises his father he will visit them soon, feeling relieved. Hanging up the phone, he finds it strange that the best hospital offered to help. Receiving a call from his brother, he wonders if it's a special day for the family. His brother asks if he saw the interview, outraged by their mother's situation. He then says he'll send his allowance to their mother to help with the lawsuit. His brother reveals he received a scholarship and says that living well brings good luck. Asking where the scholarship came from, he finds out it was from the management department. Hanging up the phone, he realizes everything was the work of the management department. He understands that it wasn't heaven, but the department that helped his family. Calling his team leader, he asks to meet in a quiet place. They then meet at a restaurant to talk about the recent events. Bong asks why he did all of that for his family without even consulting him. The team leader replies that it was absolutely necessary, not even trying to hide the reason. He explains that problems at home could affect his performance in the tower. He asks if this kind of care is only for the elite team, questioning his contract. Suddenly, the team leader stands up and slams his hand on the table with great force. He then shows him an ultra-elite contract, a special management plan for players. With a smile, he says they can sign the elite contract right now. Surprised by the offer, Bong is speechless, just asking what he means. Offering an elite contract, he says they can sign it right now. Surprised by the offer, he realizes the man came prepared, but he replies that he still doesn't feel confident in his talent. Getting up from the table, Jong gives him a serious look. He then asks if Bong really feels that way after breaking a record. Hearing this, Bong is at a loss for words. He just lowers his head, having nothing to say about it. Pleading sincerely, Jong bows before the bewildered young man. Remembering the danger, he's told that he deserves the elite team's treatment. Asking him to sit down, Bong says he doesn't want to be filmed. He explains that the recording is one of the main reasons he won't sign. Jong then says the recording and security arrangements can be adjusted. He guarantees that he'll have protection and that his family can have bodyguards too. He then reveals that with the contract, Bong will get 2 houses. With no way to refuse, he accepts the offer made to him. As he's about to sign the contract, Bong thinks about the 2 houses he's going to get, but he stops the pen at the last second, asking for a minute. Confused, the man asks why he needs more time now. Saying he wants some advice first, he buys himself some time to think. The next day, a new figure suddenly appears inside his house. A presence appears, and he covers his eyes at its arrival. Striking a pose, the newcomer reveals himself after his class update. Returning to his normal form, he's told they need to discuss something important. Recounting the story, he reveals he met with the team leader yesterday. Explaining the offer he received, he asks for Kosak's opinion on the matter. Raising his hand, Kosak says he's all for him accepting the offer. Worried about the future, he asks if everything will be all right for them. Kosak then explains that the summoner just needs to live a long and safe life. He reveals there are many legendary beings that can be summoned in the future, and they will all obey absolutely, as long as he follows the principle. Shouting, he says there are even demigod-level monsters to summon. Surprised, he can barely imagine the power of such beings. Kosak explains that he can't do it now, but he will be able to in the future, so he asks the summoner to live a long life and keep on summoning. Thinking about the possibilities, he calculates he can perform 12 summons a year, but he knows it will all be for nothing if he isn't lucky. Looking at the system window, he notices there are 19 days until the next one. Kosak then advises him to make a firm demand in the contract. He says the condition is to have full control over when to ascend the floors. Having a bad memory, he seems to have gone through something very painful. He then assures him that with this condition, the state's support is good. The scene changes, and the newly summoned being arrives and is welcomed into the house. Replying rudely, he says a warrior doesn't greet just anyone. Annoyed, the assassin shouts that he is an SSR, special and super rare. Holding Gobang, he yells that there's a huge difference between them. Yelling at Gobang, he says the difference between them is enormous. Feeling sorry for the situation, he decides to give him the next summoning rune. Entering the 25th floor of the tower, their mission is announced. Suddenly, several orcs appear, running toward the group to attack. Positioned between the two, he believes he can take on 1 or 2 of them. Preparing for the fight, Kosak says it's time to warm up. He then orders Gobang to go ahead and draw the enemy's attention. Sprinting forward, Gobang yells that he can take all the hits. With a powerful stomp, he gets ready to attack the monsters in front of him. He then raises his arms, preparing a devastating blow against the ground. Surprised by the action, the orc stands still, not understanding what's happening. With the blow, He sends the orcs flying from the impact. Smiling, the assassin announces that it's his turn to attack. He then lunges forward, striking with impressive speed. Startled, he feels as if a fighter jet just flew past him. Soaring through the air, he prepares a strike against the enemies before him. His strike hits several orcs at once, sending them flying. Using his skill, he creates a series of explosions on the battlefield. Watching the scene, he realizes the impressive power of his companion's attack. Just then, arrows are fired, surrounding the assassin from all sides. Taking the hits, he's struck by the remaining monster's attacks. Believing he has won, the large orc smiles at the wounded assassin, but he notices a strange movement approaching right in front of him. Suddenly, the assassin's body vanishes, revealing it was just an illusion. Appearing behind the orcs, he surprises the monsters with his sudden arrival. With his other skill, he begins to unleash a barrage of strikes on the enemies. Finishing his attack, he takes down the orcs surrounding him. Meanwhile, Gobang continues to fight the rest of the remaining monsters. Seeing what happened, the last few remaining orcs are left stunned. Preparing his final blow, he activates his dagger to end the fight. Smiling, he says they are just getting started. Not to be left behind, he also activates one of his skills. Soaring through the air, he charges at the monsters still standing. His blow then hits the ground, creating an impact between the two orcs. Recalling the conversation, he hears that his safety is the most important thing. But he decides he needs to grow quickly to face future challenges. He wants to become strong enough so that everyone can be worry-free. Dodging the blow, he lunges at the orc in front of him. He knows he can't rely on Cossack forever on this journey. As he's attacked, he yells that he needs to get much stronger on his own. Dodging the attack, he prepares to land a blow on his opponent. With a swift strike, he hits the orc dead on. The blow sends the orc slamming into the ground with full force. Getting up furiously, the orc prepares to attack the boy once more. He then activates the first form of his primal thunder staff. Using his soul-chasing lightning, he strikes the opponent's head. Taking the hit head-on, the monster is thrown back by the impact. Seeing more orcs approaching, he readies himself for the next fight. Activating his skill again, he charges toward the incoming enemies. With a precise strike, he hits the head of the first orc in the group. Continuing his assault, he then strikes another opponent with his staff. In a swift move, he finishes off the last remaining monster. Landing the final blow, he defeats the monster before him. Just then, a system window appears, unlocking the staff's second form. Celebrating the news, he says he's finally managed to unlock the new form. Seeing new orcs arrive, he already knows how he'll use the new technique. Activating the second form, he prepares to test his new power. He then unleashes his skill, firing multiple strikes at the approaching monsters. A massive strike falls from the sky, hitting all the enemies at once. Realizing its power, he yells that it's an area of effect attack. Confused, Cossack asks if one of the orcs was somehow using lightning. Seeing what's happening, he's shocked by the scene before him. Running desperately, he shouts the summoner's name, telling him to stop. Getting closer, he rushes to the boy's side to pull him away. He yells that he wasn't supposed to take risks and that they had a deal. Afraid of being scolded, he apologizes for what he just did. Rethinking the situation, he pauses for a moment and analyzes everything that happened. He then wonders why he's apologizing to his own summon. Shouting in anger, he declares that inside the tower, he's the one in charge. Tired of hearing about safety, he commands the great orc chief to appear at once. Charging forward, he yells that he's going to crush the monster's head right now. Stopping suddenly, he realizes something unexpected has just happened in front of him. Just then, the great orc chief appears, surprising the boy with its gigantic size. As he's attacked, he desperately screams Cossack's name to save him. In a swift move, Cossack appears and shoves him out of the way of the blow. Taken to a safe spot, he regrets not having listened to him earlier. Pointing at the monster, he asks them to get rid of the orc chief quickly. Facing the group, the great orc prepares for the next big battle. His companions assure him they will handle everything and protect their summoner. Calling to Gobang, the two advance together to face the great enemy. They then charge in, attacking the orc chief from completely different sides. Preparing a powerful blow, Gobang concentrates his strength into his hand. His hand then clenches, ready to stop the incoming attack. With his hand, he firmly grips the axe of the attacking orc chief. Surprised by the defense, the orc chief stares at Gobang, completely baffled. He then stomps hard on the ground, preparing his next move. With both fists, he lands a devastating blow against the orc chief. The monster takes the hit head on, sent flying backward by the impact. Meanwhile, the assassin emerges from behind to stealthily attack another monster. With a sequence of strikes, he finishes off the last remaining orc. After the victory, several system windows pop up with the mission rewards. For accumulating 25 insignias, he receives a new special perk. With the reward in hand, he can select a perk of his choice. Reading the window, he's surprised by the type of perk he received. He then sees a list with several upgrade options to choose from. Without hesitation, he touches the system screen to make his choice. Choosing the trait enhancement, he says it's the best possible option. His status window shows that his simultaneous summons have now increased to 3. Including himself, his party can now have up to 4 members in total. Turning around, he gets ready to talk to his 2 teammates. He then asks the 2 seated men what they'd like to eat today. Cossack raises his hand and suggests a dish, leaving the summoner quite surprised. With the food on the table, he congratulates them both on their hard work during the mission. While eating, Gobong says the food isn't spicy, but actually very sweet. Suspicious, Cossack stares at his bowl and asks if that's really true. But upon tasting the food, he feels a very strong burning from the pepper. Lying on the floor, Gobong says the assassin needs to be replaced soon. Seeing his progress, he believes he can now tell his family everything. The scene changes, showing an apartment building in the late afternoon. Arriving home, he happily says he managed to buy meat for his mother. His family then asks where he got the money to buy all that. Calming his wife, the father tells them to enjoy the family dinner. Watching his parents, he feels relieved that everything worked out for them. Then he reveals to his family that he has awakened and is now an active player. Speechless, everyone at the table falls silent after hearing the news. Thinking it's a joke, they ask if he's talking about some kind of game. To prove it's true, he makes a call and identifies himself to Leader John. The next day, his family finds out he is now an elite player. Using a special card, he reveals the first big surprise he has prepared. He then unveils a huge house, telling them they're going to live there now. In the management department, he gets ready to finally sign his contract. As he signs the document, his name is made official as a new elite player. With the contract in hand, he can't believe he made it this far. Reflecting on his life, he realizes how unpredictable everything can be. During the conversation, he's told his annual salary will be $2 billion. He then explains that he's not comfortable with his information being revealed. Imagining the future, he fears his family will be exposed by the media. Then the team leader asks if his family liked the new house. Showing a message, he says the house is more than enough for them. The leader then shows him the new apartment prepared for him on a tablet. Seeing the images, he says the place looks like a luxury penthouse. In another scene, Seoul's largest penthouse is shown at night. Inside, a man relaxes in the pool with 2 women. Later, he's seen in the shower, still with the 2 of them. Getting closer to one, he seems to be enjoying the moment. Introduced as Korea's #1 player, he invites the women to have some fun. Toasting with his drink, he comments that the glass costs 5 million won. Then one of them asks a question about something she was curious to know. Wanting to know his identity, she asks who the record holder for the 25th floor is. Uninterested, he says he doesn't care about some low-level rookie. Despite the praise, he tells them to stop talking about that subject. But he orders them to continue, pouring the drink over the woman's head. Grabbing her, he asks what would happen if he stopped climbing the tower. Throwing the bottle, he says the tower could appear in a big city. With the bottle shattered, he yells that the country would be completely destroyed. Crying in fear, she hears him threaten to test if it's all true. Alone in the room, he says he feels terrible about the situation. Annoyed, he complains that all anyone talks about is the S++ record. He then puts a hand to his face, with nothing to say at the moment. Remembering an offer, he reveals the proposal he received from the Chinese government. He also recalls the offer from Japan, with an even higher salary and a mansion. Complaining about their ingratitude, he gets angry that they only pay attention to the new record holder. Thinking about becoming a citizen elsewhere, he realizes how difficult the 66th floor is. On the upper floors, the monsters are specters that ignore physical attacks. After each attempt, players need to rest for 3 days from the mental shock. Even with full support, he barely makes it out of the tough fights alive. Looking at his reflection, he decides to go through with his naturalization. His departure would create chaos, as the tower's deadline is already halfway through. In about 3 months, the tower's collapse will finally begin. As the only hope, he knows everyone in the country depends on him. Laughing manically, he yells that he won't be in Korea to help anymore. Imagining the destruction, he wishes despair and regret upon all the ungrateful people. Changing scenes, the player receives a delivery of 10 chickens at his door. Looking around, he finds his new place very comfortable and safe. In the building, a team of staff takes care of all the tasks for the players. With so many facilities, he thinks he should have moved in much sooner. Bringing in dinner, he remembers that the 26th floor mission is complete. Despite the difficult environment, his skill made the fight against the monsters easier. Arriving excitedly, he calls his companions to eat the chicken he brought, but the 2 of them seem to be staring intently at something in front of them. Not understanding, he approaches and asks what they're watching so intently. Then he realizes the 2 were watching a girl group on television. He says he completely quickly understands why they didn't answer his call. Meanwhile, Gobang takes the opportunity to grab a piece of chicken. Eating together, he decides they'll go straight to the 29th floor. Curious, Kosak asks why they're stopping specifically on that floor. He then reveals he'll go to the 30th floor with a 4-person team. Happy with the news, Kosak says he's looking forward to the new team member. While Gobang celebrates, Kosak worries about losing his position in the group. Just then, the team leader arrives, bringing the item he had requested earlier. Thanking him for the item, he's told that providing support is the team's job. Entering the tower, they arrive on the 27th floor, a very cold place. With the new equipment, he realizes he doesn't feel any cold at all. Asking Gobang, he's told that a true warrior never feels cold. Seeing Kosak nearly frozen, he's told the cold can be overcome with magic. He just replies, "All right," observing his companions. Then Kosak starts running in place to warm up. Shouting that they should get started, he runs off to hunt monsters. He then moves quickly through the snow, making his way through the trees. Commenting to Gobang, he says that Kosak has gone crazy from the cold. Feeling comfortable, he decides he needs to hunt at least one monster too. Calling to Gobang, the two of them run to follow the assassin through the forest. Suddenly, a window announces that the mission is complete and he has leveled up. New system windows appear, showing the rewards he just earned. Seeing a new item, he's happy to have gotten a holy sword. Looking at the sword, he notices it seems very worn and old. Holding it, he doesn't understand how it can be better than his staff. Thinking of selling it later, he decides to store the new item in his inventory. Just then, the sword's description window reveals its effects against the undead. Offering the sword to Gobang, he asks if Gobang wants to use it. He refuses, raising his fist and saying that a true Gobang fights without weapons. Asking Kosak, he learns that the assassin only uses top-tier equipment. With no other choice, he figures he'll have to sell the sword later. But before that, he decides to try swinging the sword just once. Wielding the weapon, he prepares to test the weight of his newly acquired item. With great difficulty, he manages to move the heavy sword for a single strike. He then twists his body, trying to make one more move with the weapon. Completely out of breath, he's exhausted after just 2 simple swings. Even so, Kosak praises the feat, leaving the young man confused. The assassin then explains that physical abilities are limited outside the tower. Surprised by the news, he learns that it's possible to remove this power limitation. Kosak says this only happens if the barrier between the world and the tower disappears. This reality would become the tower, unlocking the limits of all players. But he finishes by saying that this would be the signal for the world's destruction. The scene changes, showing the Japanese embassy in Seoul at dusk. Answering the call, he hears that the rabbit wants to change nests. He then replies that he'll take care of everything, ending the call shortly after. This is Counselor Tomo, and he warns that a typhoon is about to arrive. 2 days later, a window shows a deadline of 92 days. Determined, he focuses on continuing to climb the floors at his own pace. Prioritizing safety, he prepares to clear floor 29. Recalling the previous floor, he faced trolls that attacked from the treetops, but with Gobang's help, they got through the challenge without any problems. He knocked the monsters from the trees with his strong and powerful blows. Meanwhile, Kosak finished off the enemies that fell, clearing the path for everyone. For the next floor, he knows the clear won't be easy. They will face the Plague Troll, a filthy monster that has made players give up before. For the battle, he performs the designated summon of his 2 teammates. With the team assembled, they head to floor 29. Entering floor 29, the mission is to defeat the Plague Trolls. His 2 companions then jump to the ground, beginning their advance against the monsters. With their help, the hunting speed was even faster than before. After completion, he levels up and receives the mission rewards. Happy with the victory, they ask if the group will have dinner together tonight. Apologizing, he looks at his filthy and smelly companions. He then uses his skill, sending them both home from that location. Thinking of his new house, he couldn't let them return dirty. The scene changes to a woman training hard at the management department's gym. After a set, she throws the weights to the ground with full force. As the number 2 ranked player, she is currently climbing floor 62. Facing the black zombie, she feels she has no chance of victory. Sitting on a bench, she wonders if this floor is her limit, but she stands up, determined to keep trying until her body can't take it anymore. Drinking a supplement, she prepares to increase her strength and continue training. Posing in the gym, she says she needs positive power to keep going. Suddenly, she sees several people rushing down the halls. A woman then calls her name, looking very worried about something. She says she's busy and asks why everyone is running around. Annoyed, she finds out the number 1 player has done something serious. At a press conference, he complains about the negligence of the elite team. With several reporters present, the country country's future seems to be in jeopardy. He then announces he will leave Korea and become a Japanese player. Shocked by the news, the young man can't believe what he's hearing. At the department, he hears that the #1 player is becoming a naturalized citizen of Japan. The team leader then asks how long it would take him to reach floor 60. He calculates it would take him 37 days to reach floor 66, but he knows it would be difficult to do that within the 90-day deadline. Desperate, the team leader begs him to accept this impossible mission. Despite the plea, he says he can't promise what he can't guarantee. Suddenly, the #2 player arrives in the room, calling for the team leader. She asks if the United States will lend them the light attribute items. Without a definitive answer, he says the global supply of these items is tight. Noticing the young man's presence, she asks the leader who his guest is. Not knowing what to say, he feels too embarrassed to introduce himself right then. He then reveals that he came to sell some items he had in his inventory. Offering his sword, he asks if she would like to try the weapon. Curious, she approaches and asks to take a look at the item for a moment. Touching the sword, she uses her ability to see the item's description. The system window then reveals all the effects of the holy sword to her. Impressed, she has never heard of an item with such powerful effects before. Grabbing the young man, she surprises him with a completely unexpected reaction. Getting close to him, she begs him to lend her the sword just once, saying she's willing to do anything for that item. He imagines a future, seeing himself walk into a church for his wedding. Next to the bride, he realizes he's marrying player #2. Walking along the beach, they enjoy their honeymoon in a tropical paradise. As fireworks light up the sky, he asks what they should name their son. Blushing, she says the name would be Bong Holy Sword, much to his confusion, but he hears her tell him to stop fooling around and come closer for a kiss. Waking from his dream, he is called back to the harsh reality. With the sword in her hand, she asks if he's really going to lend her the item. He agrees, telling her to use it and let him know how it performs. With her new armor, she says she's going to clear floor 62 now. Watching her leave, he tells her to be careful and come back safely. The system activates, and she enters the tower to begin floor 62. Her mission is to defeat 20 black zombies within the 15-hour time limit. In the middle of the floor, she comes across a creature that shouldn't be alive. An undead monster then emerges from the shadows, ready to attack at any moment. Sensing a strange energy, she feels the same urge to run. Activating the sword's power, she releases the white glow of the holy weapon. But she notices the light is weaker than that of her other items. The black zombie lunges at her, striking forward. Despite her fear, she tells herself she has to face the enemy head-on. Shouting that it's her destiny, she charges the monster with her sword, but the monster attacks her, catching the sword's blade with its bare hand. Darkness begins to envelop player #2's body. Feeling her body grow heavy, she realizes nothing has changed with the holy sword. The monster prepares a final blow, ready to end the fight once and for all. But one of the sword's effects activates, completely changing the course of the battle. The monster recoils, feeling the effect of the player's newly activated skill. She charges forward, striking the monster with a powerful swing. With the attack, she manages to deal critical damage to the zombie in front of her. Seizing the opportunity, she prepares to press her attack. With a series of strikes, she deals several critical hits to the black zombie. Surprised, she defeats the monster with ease. Back at the department, the team leader checks the time on his watch. It's been 2 hours since she entered floor 62. Worried, he knows that this is usually when she returns after failing a mission. Suddenly, a portal opens, and the team leader notices her arrival. Exiting the portal, she stops for a moment to drink a healing potion. Happy to see her, he says he's glad she's back safely. Then he asks if she found the holy sword useful for the battle. She suddenly hugs him, leaving the guy completely stunned. As she hugs him, he shouts in confusion, not understanding what's happening. Thanking him profusely, she says that without the sword, she would have certainly failed. The team leader just watches, guessing that she likes the guy. She then announces that the clearing of floor 62 was a success. With the sword, she believes that even floor 66 is possible. Relieved, he thinks about what would happen if the sword fell into the wrong hands. He wonders if it's possible for someone to perform so well alone. Returning the sword, she says she used it well, but the blade is damaged. The leader says that with their craftsmen, it can be used for a long time. He then offers to sell her the sword since it's so useful, but they tell him that instead of buying it, they want to rent it from him. There are hundreds of towers, and the sword can be rented to other countries. The offer is 10 billion won for each time the sword is used. After a conversation, they agree to the terms for renting the item. Celebrating the deal, he realizes that renting out the sword is pure profit. The management department will handle all the rental procedures. He then says he'll rent it to the department for 1 billion won. The scene changes. He's preparing a meal, thinking about what happened. Cooking happily, he can't believe the sword has turned into a gold mine. Bringing the food mood, he serves dinner to his 2 teammates. His 2 teammates celebrate happily, excited that their summoner cooked for them personally. Smiling, he tells them to eat up because he's a rich man now. That night, news of the floor's completion spread throughout the country. 10 days later, he spent his time repeating the same floor missions. After a shower, he prepares for his random summon skill to come off cooldown. He also cuts his nails, puts on new clothes, and gets ready for the ritual. Sitting on the floor, his stomach is empty from the fast he started yesterday. He's starving and thinks he needs to get this over with quickly so he can eat. Taking a glass of water, he completes the final step of his ritual. With his hands clasped, he waits for the skill's cooldown to end. Kneeling on the floor, he prays for a super rare summon to finally appear. Kosak tells him not to worry, doubting another Gobang will appear. Telling him to shut up, he asks what's wrong with Gobang. He then says that thanks to him, they successfully cleared several floors. Surprised, the assassin didn't expect that kind of reaction from his summoner. Focused on the ritual, he says it's time and starts the countdown. Shouting random summon, he prays for a high-ranking result. At that, a portal of light opens, showing a mysterious silhouette emerging. Slowly, the new figure begins to materialize in front of the group. Her feet then touch the ground, taking a step out of the light. Thankful for being summoned, the woman speaks her first words to her master. She then kneels on the floor, introducing herself as Gaian Dalray. Her catalog window appears, revealing that her stats are a complete mystery. Stunned, the 3 of them stand frozen before the new team member. Not knowing what to do, they realize the new summon is a woman. Suddenly, the woman's items appear and start floating in the air. Holding her equipment, she vows to give her all to help. Noticing the items, he wonders if the new summon is a shaman. Suddenly, she glares at the assassin who was staring at her strangely. Yelling at him, she asks what he's staring at with that look on his face. Threatening the assassin, she says he'll get what he deserves for this. Threatening the young man, she says he won't escape divine punishment. Frightened, he backs away and watches what's happening with the new summon, but she says the young master can look as much as he wants. Happy with the result, he celebrates that the new summon is an SSR. He then wonders if there's a hierarchy among SSR summons. The system window reveals she is the head shaman of the sanctuary. In the end, he wonders if the ritual actually affected the summon. As he's transported, he says he's going to enter his new summon's memories. Arriving in a new place, he wonders where he is and what that temple is. As the emperor's daughter, she became the shaman of the imperial sanctuary. After her father's death, her uncle usurped the throne and killed her brother. Thirsty for revenge, she swore an oath and performed a death curse ritual, but her uncle was prepared, using a scapegoat to receive the curse. As the greatest shaman of her time, she had served the empire since childhood. Shouting death curse, she unleashes all her power at once. Her power was so strong, it became completely unstoppable. But casting a curse is an act that goes against celestial law. Her life cut short, she gets her revenge and dies soon after. Understanding her past, he says her story was quite bitter. Returning from the vision, he asks the name of the founder of the Cheon Empire. She then replies that the great Emperor Gaian Huan founded it. Surprised by her answer, he can't believe what he just heard. He then asks if it's the same emperor who founded the kingdom of Baekje. Shocked, he realizes that Gaian came from a parallel universe different from his own. He then understands that history diverged from the 3 kingdoms period. Finding it fascinating, he realizes her charisma is no joke. With the team assembled, he invites everyone to eat some ramen. Kozak says the summoner's ramen is the most delicious of all. Yelling at the 2 of them, she says they deserve severe punishment for this. She then orders them to get up as the master can't cook alone. Kozak complains, saying there's no need for such casual language between them. With her staff in hand, she says she'll cast a curse to punish him. Screaming in fear, the assassin begs her to wait a moment. Rushing to the kitchen, the 2 of them offer to prepare the group's meal. After eating, he invites the new member to go to the tower with them. Thinking about the future, he believes she can do something Kosak can't. Yelling at the assassin, Gaian tells him to hunt as much as he wants to protect them. Smiling at the situation, he decides he'll hunt about 10 monsters for now. The 2 then say they will protect the summoner, even if it costs them their lives. Praising the 2, Gaian says they have the right mentality for the team. The 30th floor mission is to defeat 80 trolls and 1 two-headed troll. Seeing the monsters, he wonders how Gaian will participate in combat. Suddenly, a strange object appears floating in the new member's hand. He then realizes the object is actually a portable speaker. Explaining the situation, she says it's a desperate measure for her travels. While Gobang and the assassin shout, she prepares for her ritual. Pressing play, a song starts to blast from the speaker she brought. Surprised by the sound, The assassin can't believe what he's hearing. Gobang is also shocked, staring at the speaker in astonishment. As the ritual begins, she commands all evil things to leave this place. A mirror then appears, releasing a powerful light against the approaching monsters. The mirror's light spreads out, surrounding every member of the team. Feeling the power, he wonders what it is and how it's happening. He then notices Gobang's body is growing and getting bigger. With his tough skin, the monster's blows don't do any damage to him. With his increased power, he throws the enemies away with ease. The assassin also receives the power, impressed by his new strength. Happy with the result, he shouts that his senses are much sharper. Surprised, he discovers that Gaion can also use buffs on her allies. The trolls are also affected, but they become much slower under the curse. Feeling his fighting spirit surge, he rushes forward to fight the monsters, but he's stopped from attacking by Gaion, who appears behind him. She tells him not to fight and to just watch the battle comfortably. Begging her to let him go, he insists he's weak and a coward. Yelling that he can't do anything, he sees the mission complete window appear. Annoyed with the situation, he complains that he didn't get to kill a single monster. Turning around, he's startled to see Gaion standing in front of him. With tears in her eyes, he's surprised to realize she's crying. Apologizing, she says she was afraid of losing her young master. Hearing that, he's surprised and doesn't know what to say at the moment. Feeling like an idiot, he blames himself for not understanding what happened. He then remembers she lived a life of isolation, fear, and despair. In the past, crying, she lost everyone precious to her all at once. He realizes her tough attitude is just a front to hide her own weakness. Calming Gaion down, he promises he won't go anywhere dangerous alone. Suddenly, their two companions arrive, running to announce the mission's end. Kosak asks why the princess is crying and what happened here. Screaming at the assassin, she tells him not to come any closer with his filthy body. Startled by the bells, he agrees to back away and not get close. Leaving the tower, all the players return home safely. Congratulating everyone, he tells them to rest and recover their strength. With 30 insignias, he receives a new perk as a reward from the tower. The new item is a skill cooldown reset ticket. Happy with the reward, he considers using the item right now to summon, but he decides to save the item for a more desperate situation in the future. In another scene, it's announced that the 63rd floor has been cleared. At a press conference, images of the mission's completion are shown. The Holy Sword was the key to defeating the floor's undead monsters. With the deadline approaching, the public is anxious about the country's situation. The director then promises they will clear the 66th floor within a month. He also announces that the sword will not be lent to the traitor's country. Screaming in anger, the number 1 player smashes the television in his room. He freaks out, yelling that if he had the sword, he would have cleared everything for them. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door and asks if he's in the room. Saying it's nothing, he asks the reason for the man's unexpected visit. The man then asks when he plans to proceed with clearing the floor. He's told that Japan can't borrow the Holy Sword for the tower. Hearing the news, he says he'll clear the 57th floor tomorrow. The man then suggests he appear on a live television broadcast. Leaving the room, he says he'll arrange for a new television for the room. Furious, he wonders who was the one to find the Holy Sword. Meanwhile, news about the floor's completion spreads across the internet. The Holy Sword's origin and its mysterious owner become the talk of the town. In the comments, people celebrate the new record and the national pride they feel. Seeing the news, he celebrates that people are talking a lot about him. Receiving his delivery, he tells the delivery person he can carry it all himself. With 10 tubs of ice cream, he gets ready to celebrate his new achievements. Remembering the past, he celebrates that he can now buy as much ice cream as he wants. Knowing he's going to receive 1 billion, he says he's grown a lot as a person. He then realizes that if he doesn't eat first, none of his summons will eat. Eating the ice cream, his two companions say it tastes delicious. As she eats, Gaion says a person must be able to control their emotions. Tasting the ice cream, she seems to really enjoy the flavor. With her eyes sparkling, she exclaims that the ice cream tastes amazing. Noticing her reaction, the assassin says he saw the face she just made. She then says she's never tasted food this sweet, not even in the royal palace. Happy with the ice cream, she says she's deeply moved by her master's gift. Hearing about the traitor, she says she wants to perform a ritual. Furious, she says it's absurd for him to put his homeland in danger. She then shouts that he must pay the price for what he did to the country. She asks the young master to get an item the traitor has used before. Worried about her, he says he's against her getting hurt because of him. Agreeing with him, the assassin says the summoner is the best of all. She then thanks him for his consideration, saying the curse won't be a deadly one. With a serious look, she reveals she's going to send karma to the traitor. Confused, he asks what karma is and how it will work on him. She explains that the consequences of his actions will just be received a little sooner. Agreeing with the idea, he says there's no reason not to do it. He then sits and waits as Guyan prepares the karma ritual. Suddenly, the assassin returns from the mission the summoner had given him. Showing the remote control, he says he got the item the traitor used. With the item on the table, he explains it wasn't hard to find the object. Drawing her dagger, she says she will begin the karma ritual right now. With the dagger, she makes a small cut on her finger for the ritual. Letting the blood drip, she calls upon the gods of heaven and earth. She then unleashes her power, causing the remote to be covered in ancient scriptures. Tossing the object into the air, she says karma will weigh on the scales. Floating, the remote control is enveloped by a mysterious red energy. The object is then transformed into a new item, ready for judgment. Falling to the floor, the remote is now a large black iron bar. Saying everything is ready, she warns that it's now up to the heavens. In another scene, the special guest is called to the event stage. Announced as the greatest player, a great misfortune may befall him. As he sits down for the interview, an interpreter gets ready to translate the conversation. Thanking him for being there, the interviewer starts asking the first questions. The interviewer notes his plan to clear the 57th floor today. Smiling at the crowd, he says he wants to support the citizens with his strength. The interviewer then asks him to prioritize his safety above all else. Confidently, he tells them not to worry, as he's cleared the floor before. Holding up 5 fingers, he promises to set a new record. He says he'll try to shorten the record to just a 5-hour mission. Vowing to ensure Japan's safety, he says he will prove his strength to everyone. Entering the tower, he arrives at the 57th floor to begin the mission. Looking around, he remarks that it's been a while. The monsters on this floor are wyverns, considered the kings of the sky and land, but he says he's already mastered their patterns, and it would be strange if he failed. Looking back, he feels something strange and pauses for a moment. He feels a chill and wonders if he's not in top condition today. Grabbing his weapon, he decides he needs to finish the mission and get some rest. Getting into position, he knows it's important to fight one-on-one. He then fires a powerful shot toward one of the monsters. The shot hits its mark, successfully taking down the wyvern. Suddenly, the monster charges, flying straight at him for a direct attack, but he keeps firing, waiting for the right moment to switch weapons. His shots hit the monster's claw, but deal no damage. Surprised, he doesn't understand why the arrow ricocheted in such an odd way. Drawing his sword, he wonders if there was a miscalculation on his part. Seeing 2 wyverns, he says it'll be a bit tough, but he can handle them. After a long battle, he manages to defeat both monsters by himself. He then complains that he hasn't landed a single critical hit today. Taking up his weapon again, he says he won't let his guard down this time. Readying his weapon, he says he'll do everything right this time. Suddenly, he feels a sneeze coming on and can't hold it back. Sneezing unintentionally, he accidentally fires his weapon toward the monsters. The shot hits the largest wyvern, drawing the attention of the others as well. Seeing the 3 wyverns, he says this is crazy and way too much to handle, but he knows giving up isn't an option since he's being broadcast live. The 3 wyverns then unleash a blast of fire at him. As he's hit, he realizes he didn't expect the monsters to attack all at once. Determined to fight, he says he'll use all his skills. He then charges forward, attacking all 3 monsters at once. After the battle, he manages to defeat the 3 wyverns that attacked him. Breathless, he says he had some bad luck, but it all worked out. He managed to hunt 5 monsters in almost an hour of intense combat. Smiling, he knows a 4-hour record will make a huge impact. Seeing the last monster, he says a powerless attack won't connect. Preparing a counterattack, he backs up to finish the fight against the monster, but suddenly he feels his body sink into something on the ground. Looking down, he realizes he stepped on some wyvern eggs. Annoyed, he can't believe the bad luck he's having right now. The hatchlings then start screeching, drawing the attention of other monsters. Frustrated with the situation, he realizes just how bad the odds are. A flock of wyverns appears, drawn by the cries of the newborn hatchlings. He then screams in rage, unable to believe he hasn't landed a single critical hit. Fleeing from the monsters, he doesn't understand how any of this makes sense. Realizing he's going to die, he decides it's better to be humiliated. The system window then announces that he has forfeited the current tower mission. On stage, a group of girls cheers for the success of Japan's hero. Suddenly, a portal opens, and the player returns to the event stage. Lying on the ground, he drinks a potion to recover from his last battle. Unsure of what happened, the host asks for a round of applause for him. The host asks about the result, but the player remains silent. Furious, he yells at everyone that it's all a load of bullshit. The news spreads that the player failed to clear the floor. 2 days later, he tries again, but fails the mission once more. In the comments, people are thankful that he's finally left the country. Meanwhile, South Korea clears the S++ rank 31 times. It's also announced that the number 2 player was successful in her mission. Elsewhere, the headquarters of the United States Department of Security is shown. They want to rent the sword so that the player, Gerald, can test the item. The secretary then authorizes the rental, as the request will be made official. The tower director also receives a call from the Prime Minister's office. The proposal is for the temporary naturalization of a player from their department. The secretary says it's more than possible, under a few special conditions. Smiling, he says they'll squeeze as much money out of Japan as they can. The news shows that the former #1 player is struggling in Japan. He realizes that karma has hit him hard, but it won't last forever. Since it's all his fault, he says he needs to deal with the consequences. Preparing for the tower, everyone gathers for the next mission of the day. Before entering, he calls the princess aside for a private conversation. He shows her several ice creams, impressing Guyan with the surprise. He then tells the other two to leave, asking if they're going to eat everything by themselves. Crying, the two say that their wounded hearts can't be healed by anything. To cheer them up, he says he'll buy them meat later. Moved by his consideration, she calls him a kind and noble gentleman. Begging to fight, he says it makes no sense for him not to take on any monsters. With a serious look, she allows him to take on just one monster per floor. After some negotiation, the two finally agree on the number of 3 monsters. Entering the floor, the mission is to defeat 20 Stage 2 Minotaurs. The monsters there are large, and the Minotaur King is 20 feet tall. Seeing the Minotaur, he feels an overwhelming presence coming from the monster, but he knows it would be ridiculous to give up now after all his effort. Guyan then begins the ritual, casting her curses on the enemies. With her powers, she strengthens her allies and weakens all the surrounding monsters. With his power boosted, Gobang starts clearing the area of enemies. The assassin stays on alert, ready to jump in if anything unexpected happens. Smiling, he prepares for the battle that is about to begin. With so much support, he knows it would be strange if he couldn't win. The Minotaur then roars, charging to attack the guy with all its might. He then rushes forward, landing a powerful blow on the monster's face. With his staff, he activates the third and final form of his weapon. Using his strike, he hits the monster with an extremely fast attack. Its speed and power are immense, and the cooldown is long. After he took down 3 monsters, his companions finished the rest. With the victory, he reaches S++ rank and receives his platinum insignia. The next day, the management department is shown in the late afternoon. Arriving from a portal, she is congratulated on her good work in the tower. She says that the 65th floor was a bit difficult to clear. Making a victory sign, she reveals it was a success in 6 hours. Excited, she says she will proceed with the 66th floor in 3 days. The National Assembly then decides to clear the floor to secure 6 months of time. In that time, the player Bong would have definitely reached the level 60 floors, but they worry about the sword, which might not last until then. Confident in the young man, the leader says his talent is no less than theirs. He calls him an anomaly, saying they don't need to worry about the sword. The leader then says he's wrong about the number of records. A notification reveals that the young man reached S++ rank on the 33rd floor. Smiling, she says that's now 33 consecutive successful clears. In the end, she says it's certain he's an anomaly. In another scene, he wonders what the talisman he won is. She explains that with the talisman, they will be seen as normal humans. Putting the item away, he's happy that everyone can now walk around with him. Just then, he receives a deposit of 1 billion for the rental of the holy sword. With the money in mind, he decides to have dinner with his summons first. Through the city streets, the group of 4 enjoys the walk they can finally take. Then a girl approaches, staring intently in Gobang's direction. With a smile, the girl says he's very cute, surprising him. Imagining the scene, he realizes she sees Gobang as a mascot. With no one getting scared, he confirms that the talisman's effect really works. Afterward, he calls everyone to eat, yelling that they're going to tear into some good meat. At the restaurant, he says he'll pay for everything and that they can order a lot. The next day, the scene changes to the front of a large building. Full of energy, they thank him and ask how much yesterday's dinner cost. He then tells them not to ask, saying they need to work to eat meat again. Inside the tower, he comes face to face with the leg of a giant minotaur. A giant minotaur appears before him, nearly 20 feet tall. He's shocked by its size, saying the creature is truly enormous. Thinking of a strategy, he grabs the creature's leg to knock it down. His companion then says he's reached his limit and can't handle it. Agreeing to the condition, he says he'll only take one of them. Then he goes to the big guy, showing him how to position his hands for the plan. He understands what he needs to do, crouching down to serve as a launch pad. The summoner then runs towards him, preparing for the boost. Stepping firmly on his ally's hands, he launches himself with all his might. Thrown upwards, he flies at an impressive speed. From high above, he realizes something has gone very wrong with the plan. He screams in despair, asking why he keeps going up. Realizing the absurd height he's reached, he is left completely stunned. As he starts to fall, he's sure the situation has gone south. Trying to calm down, he tells himself he's not going to die. Screaming in desperation, he remembers there might be a solution to the fall. Remembering past training, he felt as if he could step on the air. Imagining that sensation, he starts to feel an energy in the soles of his feet. Then he realizes he can finally control and use his own mana. Just then, a system window appears, showing the shadow step skill. Smiling, he celebrates, saying he can finally walk on air now. Plummeting from the sky at high speed, he prepares for immediate combat. Everyone is stunned, commenting on the summoner walking across the sky. With a tense face, he recognizes the incredible skill being used. Remembering a conversation, he recalls his captain talking about walking on the sky. Back in the present, he smiles and says, the summoner's talent is immense. Moving very fast, he wonders if he can aim at the speed he's going. Deciding to try, he summons his staff and prepares a new skill. Meanwhile, the monster advances with its claw, ready for a counterattack. Then the two blows collide, causing a huge impact in the center of the arena. Using the attack's recoil, he manages to land a direct hit on his opponent. Impressed, the group praises his talent, saying he deserves a title from Gobang. He replies that he was a little nervous, but everything worked out in the end. At that, his companion announces he'll clean up the rest and fires a precise shot. After the battle, notifications for the completed mission and rewards appear. He's shocked to see the special rune he received as a mission reward. New notifications pop up on the screen, showing his ranking and floor rewards. Returning to the room, he thanks everyone for their good work on the mission. He asks if the rune can evolve a summon, but his friend says no. Excited, Gobang asks if they're going to eat out and praises Korean barbecue. His companion scolds him, saying he eats too much and needs to control himself. Stepping on his foot, the woman says he needs to learn some self-control. Seeing his sadness, he approaches and says he's going to give him something. Confused, Gobang lifts his head and looks at him in surprise. Showing him the rune, he says it's a gift for Gobang to level up. Crying a lot, Gobang thanks him, and he asks why he's crying. On impulse, he hugs him tightly, making the summoner complain about his hair. The scene changes, and a man arrives at China's Special Information Department. In the room, the director questions the lack of news about the tower's completion. His subordinate reports that many of their assets are taking their own lives. Tossing a folder on the table, the director watches as the man asks what it is. He then explains that it's a list of players from South Korea's elite teams. Surprised, the man asks how he got it and why he needs the information. Ignoring the question, he orders him to choose a suitable rookie to bring there. Putting out his cigarette, he warns him not to leave any evidence behind, as usual. Immediately, the soldier salutes, pledging his oath to the great nation. After he leaves, the director comments on not making the same mistakes as Japan. With a smile on his face, he says they can simply kidnap a player. 2 days pass, and the scene shifts to a building on a sunny day. In the kitchen, he complains they could have ordered delivery, but his companion disagrees. His friend asks if he's not going to eat, but he refuses to eat ramen again. Checking the system, he realizes he still can't summon his Gobang and wonders why. Then his companion explains that soul evolution is dangerous and can fail. She scolds him for scaring the master, explaining that he wasn't deleted. With a smile, she says there must be another reason he can't be summoned. She continues, explaining that during massive rank jumps, the summon disappears for days. Happy, his friend says Gobang's soul is pure, and he scolds him. Realizing the situation, he is astonished to note that Gobang would be at his level. Laughing at his reaction, the protagonist invites him to a cafe later. Back in the room, he starts to think about Gobang possibly returning even bigger. Worried, he wonders if he'll need a bigger place for everyone to live together. Switching to a coffee shop, he asks his friend if he's seen the news. His friend says the 66th floor raid will probably happen tomorrow. Right after, he cries, saying he wanted to hold the hand of a famous heroine. Carrying a tray, the other companion arrives with the drinks and cakes. While drinking something, his phone vibrates and he answers a call from leader Jaeon. On the call, the leader congratulates him on the record and says he needs to tell him something. He then mentions the penthouse that belonged to Yu Cheolman, leaving him quite shocked. Telling him not to feel pressured, he offers to give him the penthouse as a gift. He asks if it's free, and the leader says it's a thank you gift. Hanging up, he thanks him for the offer and says he'll think about it. Talking about the house, he asks his friend if he remembers the place. He then comments that he was surprised, as the house was truly magnificent. He describes the rooftop garden, and she agrees it's a worthy house. Asking for their opinion, his friend objects, saying nothing is free. She, however, believes he should accept it, considering it a trivial gift for his achievements. Thinking it over, he worries he won't be able to refuse a future request from them. Slamming his hand on the table, he finally says he's made his decision. With conviction, he states that he'll buy it, as as he wouldn't feel right taking it for free. All excited, he celebrates the decision to buy the apartment with his own money. Taking out his phone, he looks up the price, believing he'll have more than enough money. Searching for the listing, he finds the luxury penthouse for an absurd price. Completely shocked, he is stunned to see the price is 20 billion. His friend asks what's wrong, but he plays it off and tells them it's time to go. On the way home, he questions if they really need such a big apartment. Arriving at the door, a man is praised for noticing the problems of a large house. Turning around suddenly, he senses a strange presence and goes on high alert. With focused eyes, he wonders who those people who just appeared are. He notices the scars on the man's hand and also a strong smell of blood. Looking at the other man, he realizes he's also carrying weapons and smells gunpowder. With a smile, he concludes they are of the same kind, experienced and dangerous assassins. Activating a skill, he creates 2 tracking marks to use on the suspicious men. Discreetly, he manages to place the tracking marks on both targets without them noticing. Once on the street, he decides to keep what he just discovered a secret for now. Over at the management department, the sun sets behind the large building. Inside, Nam Gaeun is sitting on the floor, meditating peacefully. Opening her eyes, she says, the sacred sword is an essential item, but she states that she can't rely solely on the power of her sword. In her training, she imagines herself fighting a large, dark monster. She charges forward, striking a mummy and a zombie in her path. Continuing her assault, she also faces a skeleton and a dark monster. With her sword, she says she has already defeated hundreds of undead to get there. Suddenly, she opens her eyes, ending her image training. Getting to her feet, she tells the 2 men she'll be back soon. They then wish her good luck as she enters the portal to the floor. Arriving on the 66th floor, she faces a giant monster made of souls. The souls merge, forming a creature with a skull-like face. She then charges forward with a scream, preparing to deliver a powerful blow. 10 hours later, she returns through the portal, completely exhausted from the long battle. Despite her exhaustion, she gives a thumbs up, confirming she completed the mission. A woman looks at the screen, which shows the 66th floor completion notification. On the screen, a new notification appears, indicating a time limit of 180 days. The team celebrates the success, shouting with joy for finally achieving the result. A man yells for them to send out the announcement, and the news spreads quickly. Everyone in the comments praises the heroine, saying she has surpassed human limits. In the streets, the people celebrate the great achievement with a party and lots of confetti. In an interview, she thanks the citizens for their support and the owner of the sacred sword. Watching everything, he says he knew she could do it and that he's bought more time. Impatiently, he says that just watching television makes him want to go already. Checking the system, he tries to summon his gobang, but the option is still locked. Suddenly, the lock indicator disappears and he gets excited about the news. With his hand outstretched, he finally begins the process to summon his gobang back. As the portal opens, he wonders what the summon's new rank will be. Seeing the silhouette, he welcomes it, but is shocked by what he sees. Asking who he is, the summoner is completely surprised by the new appearance. He thanks him for being called, and his new SSR character sheet appears. His other companion is also summoned and doesn't understand what's happening. Even the other companion appears, saluting in a very clumsy way. Startled, he asks if the summoner has revealed their existence to other people. Pointing, he says that person is Gobang, who changed after evolving. To test him, he asks Gobang to recite the 3 principles of the summoned. He then recites the first principle in a confused manner, confirming it's really him. With the team assembled, the summoner decides it's time to enter the tower. Passing through the portal, they arrive together on the 34th floor of the Black Tower. Gobang announces he'll take the lead, and that the others can follow him. He's worried about Gobang's new body, questioning if it can handle it. He then suggests that Gobang use support items before moving forward, but Gobang refuses the item, saying he wants to test his new body alone. Kneeling, he asks the summoner to trust in his new SSR strength. Despite hesitating, he agrees to the request, and decides to trust his companion. Whispering, his friend tells him to be ready to intervene if something goes wrong. Walking ahead, Gobang approaches the 2 monsters and stares them down. With a shout, he loudly taunts all the enemies at once. At that moment, all the monsters in the area turn towards him. Confused, he questions the strategy, since he was supposed to hunt them one by one. Then, Gobang's body begins to grow, becoming more and more muscular. He transforms, becoming even bigger and stronger than before. Impressed, he realizes his companion is is now almost the size of the Minotaur. With his new strength, he charges forward and lands a direct blow to the monster's chest. Next, he turns and lands another blow on a different opponent's head. Blocking the attack, he retaliates with a strike to the enemy's chest. The monster is caught off guard, with no time to defend against the blow it received. Landing a direct hit, he smashes the Minotaur's face with a powerful blow. Watching the fight, they comment that Gobang no longer looks stupid while fighting. His friend comments that the rune was a good idea, but he should have brought popcorn. With an irritated expression, he's left completely speechless by what's happening. Screaming loudly, he complains that this is a farce, saying it makes no sense. She then scolds him, telling him to shut up and reflect on his actions. Defending his companion, he asks her not to be so hard on him. He goes on to say that her shouting also scares him and makes him uncomfortable. Asking her to try using honorifics, he insists that she be kinder. Making peace, they shake hands and promise not to fight anymore. Back in the fight, Gobang restrains the monsters with his immense brute force. Breaking the enemy's horn, he throws it far away, leaving his master surprised. Letting out a huge roar, he prepares to continue the fight against all of them. He charges and lands a powerful blow directly on the head of one of the Minotaurs. Continuing the assault, he unleashes a flurry of blows on all the other enemies. With destructive power, he uses one monster to attack another without any mercy. After the last monster falls, the floor completion screen finally appears. Showcasing his new ability, two enormous figures appear behind the newly evolved Gobang. Commenting that the floor is easy, he says he wants to fight in a stronger place. Smiling, the summoner gets the message and decides to speed up their ascent of the tower. Back home, the group relaxes on the couch while enjoying a quiet meal. Pleased with his new power, he says Gobang is better in every way. With a huge tongue, Gobang starts cleaning the used food bowl. He licks the entire bowl clean, and his master notices that his personality hasn't changed at all. Near the window, his companion complains, telling him to stop making a mess. Keeping a serious expression, he remains silent for a moment, just watching. His master asks why he isn't eating, and he says he's thinking. Their female companion then says his jealousy is too obvious in front of their master. Denying everything, he claims he's just happy that their master is safer now. The summoner hands him a bowl, saying he saved one especially for him. Eating happily, he asks his master if he needs anything else at the moment. He asks to be summoned at midnight, as his manifestation time is running out. Surprised, the summoner asks about his interest, and he says he loves live soccer. Agreeing to the request, he announces he's heading out to the management department. Everyone offers to go with him, insisting that their master can't go out unprotected. As he's dragged along by his companions, he says they can't enter without being registered. At the management department, the summoner's car arrives. Next to a car, the team leader waits for him at the department's entrance. Thanking him for coming, the leader welcomes him at the main entrance. Getting out of the car, he says it's no bother, and the leader escorts him. Once in the room, the leader informs him that the money from the stones has been deposited. Accepting the congratulations, he praises the incredible player who cleared the floor. He then declines the offer, saying he'll save up the money to buy it later. Insisting on the offer, the leader says he'll keep the penthouse vacant just for him. He then says there's an important matter the two of them need to discuss. He announces the visit of the American player, Gerald Watson, in the coming days. Known to everyone, he is the highest level player in the world. Confused, he asks why, and finds out the player wants to rent the sword. Hearing the rental fee, he asks if the amount is in dollars. Confirming the amount, the leader says it's $10 million, or 13 billion won. Completely shocked by the amount, he's speechless upon hearing the offer. Seeing his expression, the leader says that $10 million isn't enough. Completely frozen, he can't believe what the leader is proposing now. Worried about the consequences, he fears his secret might be discovered. Screaming in desperation, he begs the leader to accept the $10 million. Back at the building, night begins to fall over the bustling city. Entering his apartment, he looks completely exhausted and overwhelmed. Falling to his knees, he keeps repeating the figure, 13 billion won. Crying with happiness, he tells his mother that her son has finally made it. Running through the house, he thinks about all the food he can order now, but he decides to eat a simple ramen, thinking he should save the moment for later. As night falls, the clock on the wall continues to mark the passing hours. After a while, he summons his companion back, who thanks him for the new chance. Yawning with fatigue, he says he won't be able to say goodbye when he leaves. Telling him to enjoy the game, the summoner goes to his room to rest. Smiling, he seems to be enjoying the moment of peace he has finally found for himself. Sitting on the couch, He notices that his master has finally fallen into a deep sleep. Just then, he vanishes from the room in an instant, leaving to handle his own business. The scene shifts to the city at night, the building lights illuminating the dark sky. On top of a building, he watches the city as he searches for his targets. His tracking mark has no physical form, making it impossible to detect. Remembering the previous day, he recalls marking 2 suspicious men. During the day, he had noticed the 2 of them watching the building where his master lives. With a serious look, he finally discovers where they are hiding. Arriving at the location, he finds a traditional massage parlor, open 24 hours. Inside, the scene changes to a messy, poorly lit office. Walking down the hall, a man talks on the phone while checking some important information. In a meeting, he presents the file of a female player who has reached the 30th floor. Immediately after, he moves to the next name on the list, calling out the next target. Picking up a photo, he introduces the next target, the player Bong Joo-hyuk. Stating that this is a unique operation, the captain orders them to get as much as they can. As he gives the order, 2 heads roll into the center of the meeting room. Everyone in the room is shocked, staring at the heads that rolled across the floor. Screaming that there's an intruder, one of them tells the others to find and kill him. Running out of the room, the group of armed men begins to search for the intruder. Sitting in the chair, Cossack compliments the photo, leaving the captain completely frozen. Shocked, the captain wonders how long he had been there without anyone noticing. Just then, the captain lunges with a knife, trying to land a direct blow to the chest, but Cossack manages to stop the blow, catching the blade with just his fingers. Effortlessly, he holds the knife and stops the captain's attack. Then, he hurls the broken piece of the blade into the captain's arm, telling him not to disturb his admiration. Seeing the scene, the men rush into the room and ask who the intruder is. With his wrist pierced, the captain screams in desperation and orders everyone to shoot him. Immediately, the 2 men take aim and start firing their guns. Dodging the shots, he says they don't need to be in such a hurry to die today. Facing them all, he warns them that they messed with the wrong person and will pay the price. Receiving the order, they fire at Cossack, who dodges while charging forward. With a swift blow, he strikes down both men. The other men try to grab his arms to stop his next move. In a quick motion, he delivers multiple strikes, injuring all of their hands. He then tells them they no longer have hands to grab him with. Finishing off the last ones, he defeats the elite troop as if they were nothing. The captain wonders if he's an intelligence agent or special forces. He realizes that such superhuman strength is only seen in videos from the Black Tower, but he doesn't understand how a player can use their powers outside the tower. After finishing the others, he announces that only the last one is left standing. Turning slowly, he prepares to finally deal with the troop's captain. Getting close, he asks if the man speaks Korean and tells him to apologize. Pressing the knife against him, he says he'll let him live if he does as he's told. Stuttering, the captain begins to apologize, but is cut off by a strike. With one final blow, he finishes the captain, ending the bloody battle. He then says he would never forgive him for daring to mess with his master. With a red ribbon, the captain's head is left as a decoration on the table. Whistling, he leaves the room, leaving behind the trail of his massacre. With the decorated head on the table, the intruder prepares for a new task. Leaping across the room, he approaches his new target to finish the job. Worried, he fears his master won't like it, but decides to keep his signature. Back home, his master scolds him, saying he doesn't want someone who's out of control. Afraid of being kicked out, he takes the red ribbon from his pocket. The next day, the master asks if he had fun with the game yesterday. Saluting, he says that thanks to his master, he had a lot of fun. The summoner asks why he didn't eat the snacks he left in the fridge. Awkwardly, he says he was so focused on the game that he forgot to eat. With the team assembled, they prepare to ascend to the 35th floor. Excited, he yells for everyone to go hunt the cow-headed king. Seeing the horde of minotaurs, he comments that the place is packed with enemies. Asking for support, she prepares to use her buffing skills. With a shout, Gobang transforms, growing in size for combat. With his arm ready, he gets into position to start the attack against the monsters. Announcing he'll go first, he charges head-on towards the enemies. Determined to fight, he says he'll show them the power of a true SSR. Leaping over a monster, he yells to himself that he needs to be faster. Attacking the opponent, he tells himself he needs to be more decisive. Completely confused, he questions why his companion is acting that way. Protecting his ally, Gobang tells him to fight from the back, but he refuses. Realizing the pace of the fight, he decides he needs to hurry up and join in. Using his air steps, he moves impressively across the battlefield. Remembering his skill, he affirms that he's a prodigy who can walk on air. Screaming for them to die, he attacks one of the weaker enemies in his path. At that moment, the great Minotaur King finally appears on the battlefield. Surprised, he's shocked that the boss showed up so early in the battle. Gobang charges forward and hits the Minotaur with a devastating and precise blow. With a final attack, he defeats the Minotaur Minotaur King in a single blow. The powerful Minotaur is thrown far away, and a light signals the end of the fight. Impressed, he praises Gobang's strength, saying what he saw was incredible. Fallen on the ground, the other companion laments not being able to defeat the boss. After the victory, the floor completion notification appears with the rewards. Changing scenes, the massacre site is now surrounded by police officers and squad cars. Inside, evidence of the massacre is marked and scattered across the floor. Lifting the tape, the investigator enters the building to analyze the crime scene. Arriving there, he introduces himself and his partner to the lead investigator. Thanking them for coming, the investigator invites them in to see the photos. He then shows the photos of the victims, confirming they were his department's employees. Kneeling on the floor, he confirms the data was leaked, but he doesn't know how. With a shocked expression, he turns and looks back, startled by something. Seeing the photo, he's shocked to learn that the player's information was also leaked. Ordering the executives to gather, he calls for an emergency meeting with all staff. Back at his house, he gets excited to finally see the floor rewards. Suggesting a prayer, his friend says it's better to pray before claiming the prizes. Then she warns that the water from the filter isn't pure and might bring bad luck. Remembering the past, he recalls that she came from the water of that very same filter. Excited to see the prizes, he opens the reward screen for the 35 emblems. Worried, his companion hopes for an enhancement for his own trait. To his surprise, the system informs him that he got 2 items at once. Showing the first item, the screen reveals a golden shield with several defensive effects. The second prize is a golden mace, also with various effects for combat. Celebrating enthusiastically, he says the effects are great and that he loves the items. Seeing his joy, his companions worry, thinking he'll become even more reckless. Regretfully, they lament not having prayed with the unpurified water beforehand. Reminding everyone, Gobang says that the princess was summoned with that same water. Shocked, she comments that he's gotten smart enough to start making jokes. Denying he was joking, he claims he doesn't even know how to make a joke. Realizing she was summoned by a filter, she calls him extraordinary and special. Reminding everyone, Gobang announces that a new summon will arrive soon. With the 3-person system being kept, everyone worries about the new formation. Sitting on the couch, they wonder which of the 3 will have to leave the team. Analyzing their roles, Gobang is the tank, and the princess is the group's support. He then realizes that his position as the assassin is the most ambiguous among them. Afraid, he understands that if someone has to go, it will definitely be him. She says a useless servant should leave on their own to make way for a more useful one. Alone in the room, he laments, accepting this undeniable reality. Getting an idea, he says he can get an upgrade if he reaches the 40th floor. His companion yells at him, asking if he'd make their master take a risk for his sake. She continues, saying the decision to climb the floors is up to their master alone. Agreeing with her, he accepts he'll leave gracefully, as it's been fun so far. Leaving the room, the summoner asks who told him to leave. Startled, Gobang denies it was him, saying he was just considering a hypothetical situation. He then asks if Gobang would leave if a better shield knight showed up. Next, he asks the princess if she would leave if a priestess were summoned. With his hands on his hips, he warns that he's not leaving anyone behind in the tower. Crying with emotion, his companion thanks him, and the summoner apologizes for the situation. Determined, he says they'll keep clearing floors until they can summon all 4. He then suggests they stop hunting monsters until the upgrade, but everyone offers to help. Shouting that he's in, he celebrates the master's decision with his friends. In the meeting room, a man says this isn't a simple murder case. He explains the victims weren't civilians and that it was a kidnapping attempt. The director of the National Intelligence Service reveals that all the victims were trained soldiers. He continues, saying the owner of the Holy Sword was also one of the targets. Agreeing, he laments the lack of evidence since everyone involved was killed. A man then claims that the main suspect in all of this is China. He says it was pure luck that the kidnapping attempt failed. The next day, the group enters the 36th floor of the Black Tower. Excited, they all say they're ready to push for the tower's next benefit. On the new floors, they encounter ogres, smaller but much faster monsters. Despite the ogre's speed, Gobang proves to be even faster. With a single blow, he defeats the enemies with his enhanced strength and speed. Using her ability, the princess traps the ogres, preventing them from moving. With a frantic cry, the assassin charges forward and attacks the trapped enemies. With the floor cleared, he announces they'll continue at the same frantic pace. The next day, they face super fast ogres that move at the speed of light. On the 38th floor, they find ogres that attack by forcefully jumping from the sky. Despite the new enemies, Gobang proves to be even stronger and faster. On the floor above, he effortlessly holds an ogre by the neck. There, the ogres used hit-and-run tactics, trying to buy time in the battle. Even with their tactics, Gobang proves to be superior in both strength and speed. Realizing its defeat, the ogre breaks into a cold sweat and curses in frustration. Using a new tactic, he throws the ogres into the air and defeats them all. After the battles, the floor completion screens appear one after another. After 5 days of victories, online comments praise the team's insane speed. The next day, he notices the building's security has been tightened, but he needs to leave. Afraid of looking suspicious, he approaches the security guard to try to get by. Remembering his talisman, he manages to walk past the guard without being recognized. Relieved, he gets out of the building and hails a taxi to his next destination. In the taxi, he asks the driver to head to the traditional market and to step on it. Offering extra money, he convinces the driver to speed up, who tells him to buckle up. Arriving at the market, he summons his companion, apologizing for pulling him out of the bathroom. Walking through the market, they start shopping for their new journey. The stalls display a variety of fresh, colorful fruits for customers. They also find various local dishes and mouth-watering skewers. Stopping at a stall, he points to one of the items and talks to the vendor. With their shopping done, they arrive at their destination, a national mountain park. Once there, he summons the other 2 missing members to join the group. The princess and Gobang appear, and he offers to carry all the luggage. Looking at the landscape, she says the familiar mountains mean the place really exists here. Asking them to follow her, she leads the group along the mountain trail. After the hike, she informs the master that they have finally reached their destination. Stunned by the beauty, he remarks that he never knew a place like this existed. Asking Gobang for help, she tells him to move the large boulder in their way. With his strength, he removes the large boulder from the path, revealing a passage. Under the rock, they find a hidden altar that needs to be cleaned with water. With her sword in hand, she begins to clean the rock with care and precision. Startled, he fears she's holding a grudge because of his complaints. On top of the altar, they prepare the offerings for the ritual they are about to begin. With everyone gathered, she announces she will begin the blessing ritual for them all. Floating in the air, she begins to pray to the gods of the sky and the earth. She continues her prayer, asking them to watch over the master and bless him. Kneeling, the summoner also begins to pray, asking for a trait enhancement. Repeating the prayer, he focuses on entering the next floor of the tower. The 40th floor mission is to defeat 80 ogres and 1 two-headed ogre. Commenting on the enemies, he says the normal ogres are no match for them. The two-headed ogre is defeated quickly as soon as it appears in battle. With the victory, completion notifications and the floor's rewards appear. Anxious, he asks for silence and prepares to finally check his inventory. A system notification announces that a roulette ticket has been sent to his inventory. Looking at the roulette wheel, he comments on the various prize categories he can win. Searching carefully, he finally finds the trait enhancement option on the wheel, but he notices the prize section is as thin as a needle. Explaining the situation, he says the chance of getting what he wants is minimal. He asks if anyone wants to tear the ticket, but everyone suddenly gets busy. With the ticket in hand, he asks everyone not to curse him out if he doesn't get the prize. Hoping for the prize, he tears the ticket and activates the prize wheel. Nervously, he complains that the wheel is spinning for too long and feels dizzy. Suddenly, the wheel starts to slow down, and he watches intently. Celebrating prematurely, he says that even the ritual helped with the wheel. Almost stopping on the prize, he yells for the wheel to stop exactly where he wants it to. Holding his breath, he prays for the wheel to land on the right option. The wheel stops, and the pointer lands exactly on the trait enhancement option. With his arms in the air, he shouts that he won the prize so easily. His companions celebrate, praising their young master's incredible luck. The system then announces that the awakened trait has been upgraded to 4 summons. With the summon on cooldown, he decides to order chicken to celebrate with everyone. Changing scenes, a plane flies over Incheon International Airport in Korea. Running through the airport, a man hurries his group to their next destination. Clenching his fist, the world's #1 player says he has waited a long time for revenge. A man tries to calm him down, reminding him that he already cleared the specters. Looking at the Korean player, he says he needs proper revenge. Worried, his companion laments the player's impulsive personality as he never stops for a second. Rushing through the airport, the group hurries to their next scheduled appointment. At the department, the leader greets them, welcoming the arriving team. Anxiously, the player asks them to show him the holy sword he wants right away. Using his palm, the leader opens the department's security room. He then guides them to the room where the holy sword is being kept. Shocked by the sword, he asks if it's really the one right in front of him. With the sword in the safe, he hurries the payment so he can enter the tower. Holding the sword, the leader warns him to follow the terms of the rental agreement. Wielding the weapon, he enters the floor and is impressed by its glow. Facing the monster, he says he will defeat them all one by one. 20 minutes later, he is shocked at the speed with which he defeated the enemies. With the sword in hand, he says the test was worth it and he will rent it again. 5 days later, a do not disturb sign is seen on the room door. Lying in bed, he prepares for a long-awaited day of rest. With his eyes open, he remembers that today is the day of the random summon. He recalls his companion's advice to proceed with a calm mind. Following her advice, he fasted and even told his family not to contact him. Despite having money, he only ate ramen to rid himself of greed and ensure success. At the appointed time, he gathers all his companions for the summoning. Welcoming them, he notices everyone has a serious and nervous expression. With his hand outstretched, he shouts and begins the system's random summoning ritual. A notification for the start of the summon appears, and a portal begins to form. He finds it strange that the light from the summon is much smaller than usual. Suddenly, the portal opens with a small explosion, surprising everyone in the room. Emerging from the portal, a small, cute creature appears unexpectedly. With a smile, the little hamster introduces itself to its new summoner. The new servant's information screen appears, showing its rare worker status. Shocked, he can't believe that, after all that, he ended up summoning a hamster. Disappointed, he says he honestly thinks the summon was a huge mistake. His companions, however, find the creature small, round, and cute, and celebrate its arrival. Seeing their reaction, the hamster asks if it should go back, and he dismisses the summon. With a ticket in hand, he says it's a waste, but he'll use it anyway. Everyone encourages him, saying that this time, it'll all work out. Initiating the summon, a strong purple light shines, indicating a new presence. Unlike before, a large silhouette appears, leaving everyone shocked by what they see. The system screen announces that he has summoned the first super rare rarity being. Happy, he celebrates that he finally got an LSSR and can enter the tower twice. A fan falls to the ground, and a new, imposing figure emerges from the summoning portal. He is surprised to see a Taoist immortal coming out of the summoning portal. The status screen reveals the legendary Mad Demon, the greatest of all time. Approaching, the demon asks if he is the summoner and greets him politely. Suddenly, his eyes glow, and he becomes paralyzed, staring blankly into space. Floating, he seems to be seeing the memories and history of the demon he summoned. In the memories, he sees a nation in chaos, with a rule between the government and Murim. The first to break the taboo was the feared and powerful Mad Demon. With one strike, he decapitated the emperor and hung his head in the market square. Declared a public enemy, he lost his life after 7 days of intense battles. Coming to his senses, he realizes that despite being vicious, the demon is very strong. Introducing his companions, he notices they are all paralyzed with fear. The demon turns and says he has no desire to speak with inferior creatures. He then asks how many towers have collapsed in that world so far. Not understanding, he says he doesn't really know, and the demon continues to question him. He explains that a tower's collapse is an omen of the world's destruction. The demon also reveals that the tower's flaw is that there are nationality restrictions. With the demon by his side, he says the summoner's country will be safe, but he questions what good that would do, if the rest of the world will perish anyway. Saying he doesn't wish for the end, he announces that he will help him on his journey. With a smile on his face, the demon asks if he really wants to know how. Shouting, the demon says he will conquer the world and make the summoner the emperor. Startled, he pleads with him not to do it, treating it as a direct order. Refusing the order, he says it's something that must be done to save everyone. He states that it's his third principle and that he will eradicate the country's politicians. Shouting for him to stop, they all step in front, asking if he's gone mad. Sensing their intent, he turns and asks how they dare to aim at him. With his eye glowing, he warns that he will slice one of them up as a warning. Stepping closer, he says that he understands now, and the demon asks if he has comprehended. Holding his hand out in front, he yells that he understands the danger and unsummons the demon. As he is being unsummoned, the demon complains about the order, disappearing against his will. 3 hours later, they are all celebrating together, tossing the little hamster into the air. The hamster is confused in midair, not understanding the reason for all the celebration. At the airport, he says he's glad he enjoyed testing the sword. The director complains that he rented it twice without getting a discount. Recalling some news, he mentions hearing the leader will be promoted soon. Awkwardly, the leader realizes that news really does travel fast for them. Shaking hands, they say their goodbyes, and the director congratulates him on the promotion. Eagerly, the director tries to get some information about the sword. Turning his back, he wishes them a safe trip and says goodbye to the director and his team. Walking through the airport, he comments that the US will try to rent the sword again. Smiling, he celebrates that the visit earned them a $20 million profit. Happily, he says the player will be pleased with the news of $26 billion. With a bandana, the hamster gets ready to start cleaning the house. Guyon shouts for everyone to lift their feet so the hamster can clean. Dashing through the house, the hamster starts cleaning everything with great speed and and agility. Wiping away dust, he goes through every corner of the house, making everything shine. He takes out the trash and organizes the whole mess, leaving the kitchen spotless. Impressed, he asks if items returning to their places is also one of his abilities. Gathering the dirty laundry, the hamster runs and puts everything in the washing machine. He also washes the dishes and even removes the water stains from the sink. With cleaning supplies floating around, the work continues quickly and efficiently. As everything is put away, the summoner praises the hamster, saying he's truly incredible. Everyone praises the hamster, and Guyon hugs him, saying he's amazing. Giving him a jar of nuts, he tells the hamster to rest and eat as much as he wants. Whispering, he asks the others what they think of the new team member. They agree that while cute, he won't be useful when it's time to climb the tower. Suddenly, the hamster freezes the two of them, and they're startled by his speed. Celebrating their arrival, he invites everyone to clear the next floor of the tower. Entering the 41st floor, they receive a mission to defeat 15 basilisks. From there, they encounter giant, much more dangerous land beasts. The iron basilisk is a reptilian monster with a body 7 to 8 meters long. The monster's gaze freezes the body of anyone who looks at it, making escape impossible. But he says they don't need to avoid its gaze or even prepare for combat. With his 3 warriors, the monsters are defeated with great ease and speed. Excited, he suggests they all hunt some monsters to finish the floor quickly. His companion stops him, saying he can't and that he has another task. He explains that his job now is to protect the small, cute hamster. Worried, he fears the hamster will be devoured, remembering his past memories. In the visions, he was the best worker among all the labyrinth's adventurers. Cooking and mining, he was a complete servant who could do anything, but in the end, he was devoured by the giant serpent, the boss of the underground labyrinth. Floating, Guyon announces she'll bind the lizard's feet to help in the fight. Gobang charges forward and delivers a powerful blow, knocking the basilisk to the ground. Watching the fight, he realizes he needs to look after the hamster, since everyone else is busy. He tells the hamster to stay by his side, but realizes he has already vanished. Desperate, he shouts for the hamster, who was right next to him a second ago. Hearing a noise, he turns around and is surprised by what he finds. Near a hole, the hamster is digging in the dirt, and he wonders when he got there. Shouting, he runs to save the hamster, who has disappeared into the forest. He tries to hit the monster, but the hamster disappears again, leaving him confused. Spotting the hamster, he sees him running and hiding under a tree. Running so fast, he wonders how the hamster is so quick on such short legs. He realizes that the hamster is actually rolling across the ground like a ball. While he's chasing him, the floor completion notifications appear for everyone. Regretting not having fought, he realizes he spent the whole time chasing the hamster. Thanking everyone, he praises their hard work in the floor's battle. Back at home, the hamster plops down on the floor, looking disappointed about something. He starts to cry, leaving his master confused and unsure of the reason for his tears. The hamster explains that the raid ended too quickly, and he didn't get to help. Apologizing, he says he only managed to gather a small number of items. Showing what he got, he reveals that he collected some herbs from the forest. In addition, he also managed to get a piece of basilisk leather during the battle. Turning the bag upside down, he pours a mountain of mana stones onto the floor. Looking at the hamster, he realizes that all the items were collected by him. Shocked, he wonders if that was even possible to do in the tower. His companion says no, because if it were, there wouldn't be a shortage of materials in the world. In the past, many had tried to take items from the tower by putting them in their inventory. They even tried to walk out with the items in their hands, but every attempt failed. Only items from monsters could be taken out of the tower as rewards. But the hamster could store the items in his backpack naturally. Pinching his cheeks, she asks if he really managed to gather all of that by himself. The hamster apologizes, saying the hunt was too fast for him to collect more. He then asks if a slower hunt would result in 10 times more items for everyone. With his eyes gleaming, he's shocked at the possibility of so many precious items. Excited about the profits, he says he can already hear his bank account balance growing. He invites the hamster to the tower again, but he's reminded of the daily restriction. Remembering his reward, he says he can now enter the tower twice. Happily, he celebrates the achievement he got from summoning the mad demon last time. Realizing the hamster's value, he regrets almost sending him away before. With the hamster on his back, he yells for everyone to escort the Lord and his fortune. Entering the 41st floor, the mission is clear, and the group gets ready. Warning that it's a repeat, he asks everyone to go slow so the hamster can work. Everyone agrees to prolong the fight so the hamster can gather the items. The hamster uses an item to find out where the best materials on the floor are. Shouting for them to clear a path, the hamster runs ahead to start gathering items. The iron basilisk appears, and everyone prepares for the battle to begin. With a roar, the monster attacks, but it's surprised by the group's strength. Gobang uses his skill and grows to fight the giant monster. Grabbing the basilisk, He easily throws it to the ground, showing off his strength. With powerful blows, he attacks the monster, holding it down so it can't escape. With the monster defeated, he hands it over to the hamster to begin its work. Startled, the hamster falls to the ground, shocked by Gobang's brutality. Everyone scolds Gobang, telling him he scared the small, fragile hamster. The hamster explains that the hide was ruined because of Gobang's blows. In that case, he summons his golden mace for a new combat strategy. Remembering its effects, he says it's time to use his new weapon. Wielding the mace, he announces he'll hunt a monster without ruining the hide. The hamster stops him, saying the blow will freeze and shatter the monster's hide. With a new routine, the princess uses her ability to confuse the basilisks. Next, Gobang moves in and breaks the monster's legs to stop it. To finish, the assassin strikes with precision, ending the monster with a single blow. With this strategy, they get a basilisk ready for the hamster to use. He wonders how the hamster will manage to skin it, given its size. With its tools, it begins to swiftly skin the monster. Using threads, it secures the hide and removes it cleanly and perfectly. With a whistle, it calls a ball of light that helps with the work. Despite being cute, it brutally carves up the monster, leaving its master impressed. In the end, it gets a whole basilisk hide in perfect condition. Everyone celebrates their success, praising the little hamster's incredible work. With the new strategy, they secure a second hide in perfect condition. They continue the hunt, obtaining a third basilisk hide in perfect condition. After a while, the hamster reports that its backpack is full and can't hold anymore. Monster hide is rare and expensive, used to make player armor. Even celebrities and the wealthy fight to get a single product made from monster hide. Getting an idea, he thinks about using the enhancement rune on his new hamster. Back at his house, he asks his companions to clean the room for him. Sorting the items, he arranges 7 hides, 50 kilograms of stones, and various herbs. The hamster announces it can bring 100 times more, leaving its master shocked. Moving everything to his inventory, he realizes half the space is already filled. With the house full of items, he realizes the place is a mess. Sitting on the couch, he understands he can't postpone moving anymore. Lamenting, he realizes his standards for a home have risen, and he cries looking at his phone. He's shocked to learn that the US has rented the sword twice in a row. Remembering the visit, he recalls the player entering the Sacred Swords room. With his phone in hand, he realizes he can now afford the penthouse he wanted. On a beach, the calm waves show a moment of peace and tranquility. Kneeling in the sand, he thanks America and the player who saved him. Clapping his hands, he gathers everyone to make a very important announcement. His companions gather around, ready to hear what their master has to say. Showing them his phone, he announces they're moving to the new penthouse. They all remember the house and question him about the difficulty of maintaining it. The hamster starts running, and the princess yells for it to lift its feet. With the hamster, he realizes he doesn't need to worry about cleaning the house. He comments that the day was a storm, with a failure turning into a stroke of luck. Remembering the demon, he laughs at the idea of world conquest, finding it all absurd. Eating a carrot, he says he doesn't need an LSSR with his new treasure. The next day, he arrives at a building and is greeted by his family. His father calls him over and says he recently went fishing in Incheon. Showing a photo, he displays the 80-centimeter fish he managed to catch. Happy with his catch, he says his joints are healed and he feels great. He remembers the luck and health talismans he gave to his family. His mother comments on the air purifier, saying she was going to get him one. She says she didn't buy it, but won it in a raffle from a street market. His friend suddenly appears, and he asks if anything good has happened lately. He says that in his game, he's completely dominating and hitting every shot. Remembering yesterday, he says he found a coin when he was out of change for coffee. Finding it all trivial, he realizes the talisman is working for everyone in the house. Saying his goodbyes, he tells them he has an appointment and will visit again soon. On the street, he meets his friend and says he isn't waiting for a taxi. Waving, he gets into the limousine that was waiting for him, leaving his friend shocked. Speechless, his friend comments that elite players have their own drivers. In the car, he thanks him for the ride, and the leader says he was just passing by. Recalling the incident, he says he was worried, but it seems everything is fine now. Smiling, he says that seeing the player's face puts him much more at ease. He asks about the large space, and the player says his items are bulky. Heading to the warehouse, he informs them they're going to the material depot. Arriving at the large warehouse, the place looks empty, with several tall shelves. Telling him to get ready, he says he'll start taking the materials out of his inventory. Smiling, the leader says not to worry, that he's seen it all. Pulling out the first item, a huge monster hide appears, startling the leader. With wide eyes, he yells, unable to believe that thing is a monster. Falling to the floor, He's terrified by the size of the hide that just appeared. Still on the floor, he stares at the hide, trying to understand what's happening. The summoner apologizes, saying he warned him he might be surprised by the item. Recognizing the item, he realizes it's a complete hide from an iron basilisk. Warning that he's about to take out the rest, he leaves the leader even more scared and confused. Smiling, he shows his inventory, revealing he has 6 more of those hides. Shocked, the leader wonders what kind of player he is to have so many items.